Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Bismillah ar-Rahman rahim. I start with the Muslim greeting of peace be upon you. I'm Major Durrani. Welcome to the first Muslim Delegates and Assembly and Allies Assembly. This is a momentous occasion as this is the first time ever that a gathering of Muslim delegates to the Democratic National Convention is sanctioned by the DNC and has been recognized as an official program event. Many of you who are observing the proceedings of this assembly found it through the official list of caucuses and councils, as this program has been organized under the purview of the DNC Interfaith Council. In 2008, when Muslims gathered in Denver for that year's Democratic National Convention, there were some 30 or so total Muslim national delegates. At that gathering, a comment was made that our goal should be to have 100 Muslim national delegates by 2020. I'm thrilled to report that at this convention, there are over 200 Muslim delegates from over 30 from my home state of Texas. When planning this assembly, our objective was to have as many Muslims as possible share their civic engagement and leadership experience, and thus you will see in the next 2.5 hours a lineup of Muslims representing every aspect of the Muslim community spectrum in the United States. Now a few words about our program. We are meeting virtually because of the unfortunate spread of the COVID-19 virus, made worse by the lack of leadership in controlling it exhibited by the current administration. The National Muslim Task Force, the National Muslim COVID-19 Task Force will share its findings and observations in a panel discussion as befitting this convention, which is a gathering of national delegates. So as befitting this convention, which is a gathering of national delegates, we will have 10 Muslim national delegates relay their experiences displaying the rich diversity of the Muslim community Ummah. Additionally, given the importance of the upcoming November 3rd, 2020 US general elections, we will have a broad spectrum of Muslim organizations, including a Million Muslim Vote Initiative, discuss their efforts to turn out the Muslim vote. Interspersed throughout the program, we will also have a number of Muslim elected officials and prominent civic engagement leaders appear and share their thoughts on the occasion of this Democratic National Convention. A number of our non-Muslim allies will also be sharing their views, especially in collaborating with Muslim voter mobilization efforts. The full sequence of this program and order of speakers can be viewed at www.2020muslimdelegates.com. On behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to express our appreciation to all participants for their willingness to be involved in this collective effort. Special recognition and thanks also go to the DNC for sanctioning this assembly and providing us a platform to gather here. Many thanks for joining us today. To start our program today, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now for the Muslim start prayer or dua or invocation from Imam Makram Al-Amin, Imam of Masjid An-Nur in North Minneapolis, Minnesota. Imam Akram.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. With God's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer, all praise and thanks and gratitude be to God, the Lord and cherisher, sustainer of all the systems of knowledge. The most gracious, most compassionate, the sole judge on the day of judgment. You alone do we serve, and you alone do we seek assistance. Guide us all upon the way that is straight, the way that earns your favor, not encourage your wrath, nor let us be among those who are astray. Our Lord and Creator of the heavens and the earth, we ask your immeasurable blessings on this honorable assembly of Muslim delegates here at the Democratic National Convention. We ask that you guide our leaders, both women and men, in working for an America that works for all of us, not just a few of us. We call upon you to give us the courage to be bold in this moment, for a new vision for our nation that measures up to the best ideals written in the Constitution of these United States. We acknowledge and commit ourselves to your command. O you who believe, be upright for God, standing as witnesses for justice and fair dealing. Shower your abundant mercies, our Lord, upon our nation and the world, ridding us of all oppression, injustice, and this pandemic that knows no bounds or limits, respects no distinctions of gender, race, socioeconomic status, or place of origin. Our Lord, we humble ourselves before you as we embark upon new policies and agenda that honor the inherent dignity and worth of all of us. Let it be so. Amen.
We'll now move to Mansoor Al-Qadir. Mansoor Al-Qadir is with Democratic National Committee and is advisor on special projects. Mansoor, please go ahead.
Hey, assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Imam Makram, for that beautiful dua. Ameen, ameen, ameen. I'm excited to have this opportunity to join you today and be part of this historic week where we're going to nominate Joe Biden and Kamala Harris onto the Democratic ticket. Dear brothers and sisters, to the point, a point so well made last night by Michelle Obama. We as Muslims have to show up for Joe Biden. We've got to vote. We've got to vote early and in person if we can. We've got to request our mail-in ballots right now, today, and send them back immediately. And then follow up and make sure they're received. And then make sure our friends and families do the same. You can make sure you and your families are registered to vote at iwillvote.com, at iwillvote.com. iwillvote.com will also allow you to request a ballot. We at the DNC want to see Muslims engaged at the ballot box, supporting Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and Democrats up and down the ballot. But we also want to see Muslims running for office. And if you're looking to run for office, check out Run for Something. Go to runfor.net to sign up to learn about running for office. Lastly, I want to introduce you to a good friend, a underappreciated leader in our community, and a person who I'm honored to have partnered with at the DNC in working to engage Muslims ahead of this year's election, AJ Durrani. AJ is the first Muslim chair of the DNC Council, serving as a co-chair of the DNC Interfaith Program. AJ was first elected to the DNC in 2016. Prior to his election, he held several elected positions at the Texas Democratic Party, including state executive committeeman. He is a founding board member of Engage USA, a national civic engagement organization. AJ is also on the board of Islamic Education Institute in Texas that operates several Islamic schools in the greater Houston area.
I'm proud and privileged to introduce Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison. Many of you know him as the first Muslim elected to Congress. I'm not going to have a long intro, but Attorney General Keith Ellison, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, AJ. Good to see you. Always a pleasure to see you, brother. And I will tell you that I think it is true that you deserve a lot more appreciation than you get, because you're a pioneer. Before I ever put my name on a ballot, you were organizing people in the Muslim community all across America. And I want people to know who you are, AJ Durrani, because you carved a path for the rest of us, and you deserve that recognition. Of course, alhamdulillah, we know all praise is due to God, but you know, whoever doesn't thank his brother doesn't thank God. And I want to be clear that I thank you for being that leader who was there when I arrived on the scene, when Andre got there, and then when Ilhan and Rashida arrived. You had been around doing this stuff for quite a while. So thank you very much. You know, we're living in a moment of tremendous power. And what do I mean by that? On the one hand, you had the president get elected in 2016, the most sexist president you've ever seen, saying the most outrageously insulting things about women, followed up with the Women's March the next day, which may well have been one of the biggest marches in the history of this country. Women's March, not only in Washington, all over the country. The president pulls out of the Paris Climate Accords. And we think, oh my God, what are we gonna do about climate and the climate crisis? Well, then we see the Science March, and we see cities and states and local communities stepping up to do something around climate justice. And then on the other hand, we see this horrific, ugly rhetoric against people who have immigrated to the United States, Americans by choice, Americans by adoption. And we see the president doing this. He's caging children, all types of outrageous things. But then what do? Democratic attorneys general get up there and sue the federal government over the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrival program, and we win. We sue over him trying to exclude new Americans, immigrants from the census, and win. What I'm trying to say is, yes, Trump is doing things to deprive people of their rights, to undermine the pay of working people, to hurt our environment, and to hurt our civil rights. But people are responding in a way that should inspire you, demonstrating resilience and faith and hope. So I'm here to tell you that here we are in a moment where the president is trying to undermine the post office. Why? Because he's afraid that if people vote with the post office, then he's going to lose, because he knows most people don't want him. Well, we're responding by suing his delays in undermining the post office as well. But what we really need between now and Election Day and beyond is for you to reach out and engage people, to make sure that you understand that this is not a transaction. It's not just, okay, vote for Democrats and they're going to do this. No, it's not a transaction. It's a relationship. It's a relationship that is enduring well after Election Day. In fact, I'm going to tell you this. We need you to focus on Election Day, but we also need you to know that the day after Election Day is when the real work begins. When we begin to shape and mold our government that has immigration justice, that has criminal justice reform, which establishes America with a just and fair and decent and honorable, noble foreign policy. It can happen, but we've got to be able to remember that we've got to win the election, and then we're going to be in a position to help shape the future and map the future of our country. Now, I'm excited about Biden-Harris, and I'm going to be campaigning as hard as I can to get him to win. But let's keep it real. Y'all know Brother Keith likes to keep it real, right? I was a Bernie person. But you know what? Bernie is even a Biden person nowadays. No matter where you stand, no matter who you support in the primary, we have arrived at a nominee and a running mate, and we've all got to get behind it to win. Because if we don't win this, we're not going to be able to have anything except for trying to defend off and stop Trump from taking things away from American people. So let's be pragmatic and understand that we all got to tug in and get in to make sure that this wins. There should not be one mosque in America, not one, where we are not tabling at least on Jummah. There should not be one mosque in America where we're not coming together to work together. There should not be one mosque in America that's not raising up issues and helping people understand that it's not just about the presidency, it's also about everything below that. It's about the Senate, it's about the House, it's about the state offices, it's about the state legislature, it's about the municipal offices, it's about the school board, up and down the ballot. Not just one place, all places. And we need you to do that. So let me just say, let's get in there. Let's work our networks. Let's understand that the Muslim community has a lot riding on this election. Which community was it that he wanted to have a ban on? Oh, that was us. I seem to remember his Muslim ban. Have you forgotten it already? Look, this guy don't like you. But don't worry about it. We can deal with this. We can organize and change this president, but it's gonna take all of us. And just remember, you have the ability and the power to do something right at your hand. So don't think, oh, well, you know what? I'm not satisfied. I think I got complaints about the system. I don't like some of the candidates, whatever. Look, guys, they wouldn't be trying to take your vote away so hard if it wasn't a precious thing. So understand, we may not understand how important our vote is, but the far right that wants a Muslim ban, they understand how important your vote is. So we need you to get that and have that register and understand that, yes, it's about voting, but it's also about marching and demonstration. I know many of y'all have done that. It's about writing letters to the editor. It's about organizing in the street around policing, around Islamophobia, around a whole bunch of things. It's being an active citizen is not only about voting, but voting is a crucial part of it. So we need to step up and take care of that business right now. So with that, let me just say, I am your brother, Zakula here. Thank you so much for being ready, willing, and able to deliver this victory, inshallah. And I think that we're going to gain so much more than just a win on election day. We're going to gain an organized community ready to mobilize to make any dream come true, inshallah, if we're willing to work for it. So I just want to wrap up by reminding you guys, it may be true that I was the first Muslim elected to Congress, and all of y'all helped me get there. And it might be true that I swore in on the Quran. Thomas Jefferson's Quran is, in fact, those things are true. So when I got to Congress, there was only one Muslim, and that was me. Now I am not in Congress anymore, and yet there are 3 Muslims in Congress. Most of them are women. So think about that. What does the future hold if you and I are willing to work right now? Possibilities are endless. Just got to have a little faith. Thank you very much. Barakallah feek.
Muslim communities were the first to feel Donald Trump's assault on black and brown communities in this country with his vile Muslim ban. Under this administration, we've seen an unconscionable rise in Islamophobia. The incidents including kids being bullied in school and hate crimes in our communities. He's named people with a history of open Islamophobia, open, straightforward, who have no business serving in high positions in our government. What message does this send to the rest of the world? We have led the world not just by the example of our power, but the power of our example. And he's making a mockery of what we stand for. We can do something about it. And I'm here today to ask you to join me in a fight to rip this poison from our government root and stem. That will include having Muslim American voices as part of my administration. If I have the honor of being president, I will end the Muslim ban on day 1. And we're going to restore American leadership around the world, starting by putting our democratic values and our diplomacy at the center of our foreign policy again. I'll continue to champion the rights of Palestinians and Israelis to have a state of their own, as I have for decades, each of them a state of their own. But we're not going to be able to do any of this if we don't win in November. We need you. I need you. I need you to mobilize and motivate one another to register to vote, to make a plan for how to vote safely in November. Make it now.
Next is Andre Carson, U.S. Representative Congress, second man elected to Congress, Muslim from Indiana's 7th District. Congressman
Assalamu
Carson.
alaikum and greetings. This is your brother, Congressman Andre Carson from the state of Indiana. I want to welcome all of our wonderful Muslim delegates joining us for the Democratic National Convention. Even though I cannot be there with you today, I want all of us to remember that only 15 years ago, there were literally 0 Muslims in Congress. But times are different now, and there have been 4 American Muslims who have honorably represented us in the halls of Congress. But still, in the White House, we have an American president who has never apologized for trying to ban Muslims from entering the United States. And that's why it's so important for us to put a stop to him by passing the first Muslim civil rights bill, the No Ban Act. But we still have a long way to go as American Muslims trying to uplift our communities in the face of great adversity. We have no time to waste. We have to create stronger and longer alliances with other minorities and people of color. We must run for and elect people who represent our diverse and local communities. So, whether you run for local school board, state rep, or even Congress, we have to stand up for our political institutions that govern all of us. So let's roll up our sleeves on election day. I hope you get ready to mobilize all of your friends to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and all the candidates who will stand up for the underdogs to serve as voices for the voiceless. Assalamu alaikum, peace, and keep up the fantastic work of service. And I'm always your brother, and I'm proud to represent you. And thank you again for your commitment to our great nation and the Democratic Party. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Next is Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, one of the 2 first Muslim women elected to the United States Congress. She represents the 13th Congressional District of Michigan. Congresswoman Tlaib, so good to have you here. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Brother AJ. Assalamu alaikum to everyone. Inshallah, you are safe and well with your families. I want to thank all of you and all the team and folks that are engaged in not allowing a pandemic to stop us from being civically engaged during this really important election and time in our country. As you all know, I represent the 13th Congressional District, which is the 3rd poorest congressional district in the country, but also a district that has birthed various movements, especially those around labor rights, civil rights. Every corner is a reminder of that. I just want to encourage all of my Muslim sisters and brothers as they go and try to organize and engage on the ground, that we do focus on various issues that matter to us. Sometimes when we connect people with people directly on a direct human contact with people directly, I think that's when you see people spark and get inspired to want to come out and vote. One of the key things I've been doing in my district, we had a 21% increase in voter turnout in the last primary election, which is huge for us. And we're going to continue to do that, invest in the direct human contact, but also talk about these various issues around clean water and clean air. As people want to vote out the hate agenda that we see out of the Oval Office, they want to understand how that's also, though, connected to how they improve their quality of life. And we know that the Biden-Harris ticket to us is going to be able to lead with compassion versus what we've seen in the last 4 years. The demonization, dehumanization, the kind of form of oppression that we've seen. I just got off, Brother AJ, and all those that are listening with, folks that have been fighting for climate crisis, climate change policy, and really try to combat that issue. And one of the things I told them is, it's not just names on the ballot. It is the issues that matter to us that are on the ballot. And the first week of the pandemic, this administration decides to provide an executive order that took away the authority, or said, hey, we don't have to enforce the Clean Air Act and Clean Water Act. That's what they did the first week. Not PPEs, not protection, not providing for hospitals in our medical field, not any of that. They decided to deregulate the protection for clean air and clean water. As Muslimeen, I just want us to understand, like, some of these social justice issues are so intertwined with who we are as people of faith that, we can't sit by and make sure that people don't have access to water during a pandemic, that we can't stand by and watch our families being separated because of the broken, inhumane immigration system, and so many other things that are happening to our neighbors. And so as you all get out, don't underestimate the direct human contact. Getting together like this, inspiring each other to get out there and work harder is important, but don't underestimate you working your block, your community, your friends, your network, and understanding what is really at stake in this election. We're going to continue investing in that direct human contact. I know in my district, it's not persuasion, not trying to persuade people to vote for Biden. I mean, anything against Trump, they'll do. But one of the things that they're motivated and inspired by is when I'm picking up the phone, or people on my team are picking up the phone and saying, did you know you can actually drop off your ballot here? This is where you can get a request to ballot, an actual ballot mailed to your house. This is how you are actually being able to exercise your right to vote. These are the things that we also cannot take for granted. So making sure that we also stick to those basic, our neighbors and folks, especially in the Muslim community. You know this. Our neighbors, our residents, they want to vote. The ones who kind of brush off, okay, I'm not at the point where we need to continue persuading. It's the ones that actually want to vote that we have to make sure have access to vote. And so make sure that when we're working with our masjids, when we're working with our community groups, especially our youth, Muslim youth group, listen to them. They know what they're doing. Many of them sending text messages, reminders, where they can drop off ballots, what the deadlines are, where they can register to vote, all of those things, depending on the state that they're from. That is also those basics that we kind of think, well, they must know. Don't underestimate the fact that many people don't know the things that we all know, just because we're all very enthralled in the politics of in the various rules that are in various states and local election, local clerk processes. Our job, and this is what makes us ambassadors, to get out there and make sure they have that information. But alhamdulillah, many of us are motivated again by movement work and fighting against injustices. And I can't see any of us staying home. Any of us. I mean, passing the repealing the Muslim ban in a majority Democratic House was, to me alone, put tears in my eyes. I couldn't stop smiling, because to me, that's what it's about. It's about taking away that oppression and that pain of othering that is happening from this Trump administration. And we do that, again, by making sure that our voices are heard. And we do that by going to the ballot box and voting in our best interest. But thank you so much to AJ. Thank you so much to all the different partner groups, Engage, everyone that really helps put this together. I really sincerely appreciate it. Thank you, AJ. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Thank you, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib. I appreciate your being here. Now it's my distinct honor to present to you Tom Perez, who's the current chair of the Democratic National Committee and was elected to this position in February 2017. Prior to that, in the 8 years of the Obama administration, Tom had the privilege of serving first as the head of the Department's Civil Rights Division, where he led the charge against police misconduct, voter suppression, anti-LGBTQ discrimination, and immigrant bashing sheriff department. Then as Labor Secretary, fighting to protect and expand opportunities for America's working people, from better wages and overtime pay to retirement security and collective bargaining. During Tom's tenure as DNC chair, not only has it grown as a vibrant national political party body, but has developed a top-notch, state-of-the-art voter information database capability that we will all benefit from as we try to mobilize our communities for turnout at the upcoming November 2020 U.S. general elections. Tom has also brought some major reforms in the DNC, including the implementations of the recommendations of the Unity Commission that address the issues of the potential impact of the so-called superdelegates on the outcome of the nomination process for U.S. president. It was also during Tom's stewardship of DNC leadership as chair that the Interfaith Council was chartered, and that made it possible for the Muslim community to hold its first ever convention gathering, sanctioned as an official event of the DNC, as you all have seen from the schedule of caucus and council meetings. Thank you, Tom. I feel certain that our audience is looking forward to hearing your comments and thoughts. Tom, please take it. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, AJ. You've been such a great friend. Good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum. It's such an honor to be with you. AJ made history, our first Muslim American to chair one of the DNC councils. Thank you for stepping up, AJ, and thank you for all you've done. We're going to flip so many seats in Texas thanks to your leadership and the leadership of so many others. I'm here in Milwaukee, day 2 today. Day 1 yesterday was really exciting. I hope that you were as inspired as I was. We've had a remarkable last week. The appointment of Kamala Harris, the momentum that generated on top of the momentum that was already existing. We entered Milwaukee with a remarkable wind behind our backs, and we have much more work to do. We got about 75 days until the weekend. And one thing I know is that everyone on this call, you are all serial activists, and we need all hands on deck because truly, as Congresswoman Tlaib correctly pointed out, our democracy is on the ballot. Our way of life is on the ballot. And one of the things I learned from serving in the Obama administration, I learned it firsthand, is that leadership matters and elections matter. And when you have the right people like Barack Obama back then and Joe Biden now and Kamala Harris moving forward, those people will set the tone for every single agency. And we will have an administration that understands that our diversity is indeed our greatest strength. It's something we should value. It's something we should cherish. I remember so vividly, and I've talked to AJ and others about this, the privilege of working on a case when I led the Civil Rights Division down in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. They were trying to build a mosque. They encountered all sorts of discriminatory opposition from local elected officials, from local residents. And we were proud to step in as the Department of Justice to say, this is your home. And we were successful there. And we understood that that leadership was indispensable to the success of the mosque moving forward. These are the types of examples. I bring this up because the people who are in these agencies matter. There are so many things at stake, but we know that when we win, and we know we can win this November, we can restore the soul of America. I've known Joe Biden for 25 years. He is a man of his word. He's a man of faith. He's a man of conviction. He's a man who understands that our diversity is our greatest strength, and he will have our backs. He understands that the Muslim ban is not only unlawful and unconstitutional, it's fundamentally un-American. And when we organize and organize everywhere, that's how we will win. We have built the most muscular organizing infrastructure that we have ever had during this cycle because the situation demands it. And the Muslim American community is an indispensable part of our infrastructure. Mansour Kadir on our team is heading up the efforts at the DNC. He's got game. He is really, really talented. And I know he's been reaching out to all of you. What you saw on display last night was the unity of the Democratic Party. Couldn't be prouder of everyone who spoke. I spoke this morning with Senator Sanders to tell him what a wonderful, inspiring speech he gave last night. Remember, folks, our unity is indeed our greatest strength and Donald Trump's worst nightmare. And we are coming together like I've never seen. This convention is not simply for Democrats, it's for all Americans who believe that fundamental fairness is who we are, who believe that common decency is what we're about, that our religious pluralism is something to celebrate. That's what it's about, and that's what we're celebrating this week. We need you to continue to sprint to the finish line, folks. I hope you'll ask yourself every single day, when you wake up and when you go to bed, when you wake up, what am I going to do today to help Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and other Democrats? And when you go to bed at night, hold yourself accountable. Did I do what I said I would do? Thanks so much for having me. And thank you for being such a remarkable partner in our efforts to take back our democracy. Have a great meeting.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you very much. Now we start with the COVID-19 task force. Azhar Aziz, please, go ahead. Azhar Aziz, please unmute.
Assalamu alaikum and greetings of peace. I bring you the best wishes and greetings on behalf of the American Muslim community. My name is Azhar Aziz. I'm the past president of the Islamic Society of North America, ISNA, one of the oldest Muslim organizations of US and Canada, and I currently serve on their board. I'm also professionally associated with Islamic Relief. I want to begin by sharing the vision of ISNA, which is to be an exemplary and unifying Islamic organization in North America that contributes to the betterment of Muslim community and society at large. In March of this year, few national Muslim organizations such as the Islamic Society of North America, the Islamic Medical Association of North America, American Muslim Health Professionals, the Fiqh Council of North America, which is the body of Islamic scholars and jurists, came together and established a task force called as National Muslim Task Force for COVID-19, which was a response to this pandemic from American Muslims. Since then, close to 40 national Muslim organizations joined this task force, making it the primary voice of American Muslims. They have issued guidelines, statements, and press releases, and they held several webinars and online symposiums on an ongoing basis to engage and guide the 6 million American Muslims on a regular basis. With that being said, I have an amazing lineup of panelists. My first speaker is Dr. Mariam Hussain. Dr. Mariam is an MD. She is a hematology oncology fellow at the Ohio State University Comprehensive Cancer Center. She graduated from the Ohio State University College of Medicine, completed a residency in internal medicine. Dr. Hussain has been working on community service projects in the Columbus area and abroad for the past 12 years. As the vice president of the national nonprofit Islamic Medical Association of North America, she has been working on public health education and domestic projects related to food insecurity, women's health, reproductive health, and climate change. She has also traveled to many parts of the world, including Haiti, as part of the medical relief to help provide primary care at a rural clinic and raise money to build wells for clean water access. Islamic Medical Association of North America is the leading resource and network for American Muslim physicians and other healthcare professionals in North America. So without any further ado, please welcome Dr. Mariam Hussain.
Thank you so much, Brother Azhar. Appreciate it. As you mentioned, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Hello, my name is Mariam Hussain, and I'm the Vice President of Imana. On behalf of Imana's President, Dr. Nabil Safdar, and our board, I want to thank the organizers and Brother Azhar for the very kind invitation. We really appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I'm happy to share what Imana has been working on since the pandemic started to help our local communities. So for those who are unfamiliar with Imana, we're a 53-year-old organization that's become the largest network of American Muslim physicians. We provide medical relief through quality healthcare to people from all walks of life. And we're entrusted by these healthcare providers who are guided by their faith. And we aim to provide access to safe environments, equitable healthcare, and wellness through direct patient care, health programs, and advocacy. So we've been providing much needed medical relief around the world to several countries since 2003. And through Imana Medical Relief, or IMR, while we also respond to crises at home. So this COVID pandemic has been really hard, especially as things seem to change every minute, it seemed like, and it became very personal for us as physicians and healthcare providers, as so many were vulnerable while they were fighting the pandemic without adequate PPE in the very beginning. So we responded. So it was the first thing that we did was education. We created and regularly updated a website with reliable information that was easy to understand for the public, but also specific enough and scientific enough for our healthcare brothers and sisters. We had much help from our infectious disease expert, Dr. Uzma Sayed, as well. We also worked with our dear volunteers and partners like Islamic Relief to provide 50,000 much needed face masks to 24 hospitals around the country to several states. They were NIOSH approved, FDA approved, and we not only provided masks for the US, but also for our partners in Pakistan as well. Our amazing IMR volunteers traveled to the US Virgin Islands during the height of this pandemic, in the very middle of it, when the FEMA actually asked us to help with their COVID response, given our history as IMR and our credibility, thankfully. We also provided $1.5 million in medical debt relief, which became very essential for people who are suffering just a lot of economic hardships during this pandemic. We also collaborated with the Center for Earth Ethics to provide education and awareness on how COVID has revealed the very harsh and underlying reality of climate change, and that we must, an issue that we need to continue to address. And so that's why Amana has committed its first advocacy initiative towards climate change. And lastly, to speak on advocacy, I'd like to highlight the policy work of the National Muslim Task Force. Alongside American Muslim Health Professionals, Islamic Relief, Muslim Public Affairs Council, the Council on American Islamic Relations, and MGAGE, we led advocacy efforts from the Muslim community during this pandemic. So I was personally a part of that committee, still am, and it's led by Dr. Sana Sayed with AMP and Brother Jihad Saleh with Islamic Relief. And we came up with a comprehensive strategy to address major needs. So like PPE supplies, testing, contact tracing, food insecurity, access issues like Medicaid expansion. We wrote letters, created action alerts, hosted advocacy trainings, held virtual meetings with Senate officials. And we did this because we recognized that this pandemic was so desperately hurting so many of our communities throughout the US, and that we needed to get civically engaged and collaborate with other national, medical, and public health partners to help bring about some lasting change using our knowledge and expertise as medical and public health professionals. So this pandemic isn't over, unfortunately, and neither is our work at Amana or the task force, but we continue to move forward. And at Amana, we believe that everyone deserves access to healthcare at all times, and a coordinated strategic response in this time of COVID is needed now more than ever. So we send our prayers and love to all the healthcare workers out there and essential workers on the front lines. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mariam Hussain, for for sharing your thoughts. We all are witnessing a pandemic that none of us ever witnessed before, nor the generations before us witnessed such a huge pandemic. I want to bring in the next speaker, who is a very well-known individual. He currently serves as the president of Islamic Relief USA. He has more than 25 years of experience in the field of humanitarian and development assistance. He holds a degree in biochemistry. In 1994, he helped to start Islamic Relief USA. Since then, he has aided in IR USA's expansion. He has traveled to many parts of the world, especially that part of the world that is affected by conflict and disaster. He has traveled for development work in Africa, in South Asia, in Middle East. He serves on the Board of Interaction, Joint Learning Initiative, and U.S. Agency for International Development Advisory Committee on Voluntarily Foreign Aid. Along with the other leaders in the international development field, he provides advice and analysis and recommendations to USAID on the most pressing development issues in the world today. He has also served in the US State Department's Religion and Foreign Policy Working Group, where he advised on humanitarian issues and the intersection of faith and development. He's a dynamic motivational speaker, and he talks on various topics in the humanitarian and development sector. Before becoming the president of Islamic Relief USA, he held a variety of leadership roles at IR USA, including the chief executive officer. He's one of the longest serving staff members of the organization. So without any further ado, please welcome the president of Islamic Relief USA, Anwar Khan.
Assalamu alaikum, and peace be with you all. Can you hear me? Inshallah. So, mashallah, I mean,
Anwar, you have to unmute.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
You can hear me now, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum. So we are in a 1 in 100 years pandemic. There will be talk today about the health issues, and those are extremely important. And at the beginning, many of us understood the problem of COVID-19 as a health issue, but it is also a hunger issue and a poverty issue. Mashallah, in the Muslim community here in America, we are blessed with many, many health professionals. So you would expect us to be at the front lines of dealing with COVID-19 as a health situation, which it needs to be. But at the same time, it is a hunger issue. According to the UN World Food Programme, we have over 350 million people facing acute hunger this year. And we're worried that that number with COVID-19 was going to double to 700 million. The Muslim community have responded, and some of the work that we've done here in the USA through the organization I represent, I work with, Islamic Relief USA, we have already spent over $5 million here in the USA. That's benefited over 766,000 people. We have worked, mashallah, in over 45 states, 143 cities with 143 partners. Our partners, some of them are mosques, some of them are non-profits, most of them. And out of the non-profits, many are Muslim, some are from other faiths, some are secular. So through our partners that we developed before COVID-19, we were able to scale up our response. So we are providing financial and technical support to our partners. And they have worked mostly in food security, but also in financial assistance, health issues, COVID PPE, and domestic violence. We are very worried about people in the lockdown staying at home in unhealthy situations. We've heard from our partners about the increase of children going to emergency room because of wounds that they have sustained at home, also domestic violence. So we stepped up our work on the domestic violence as well. And as Dr. Mariam mentioned earlier, we partnered with Amana, other organizations with the Faith Mosque. We've also helped with World Kitchen to provide food to over 100,000 people. Now, our advocacy work is also very important. And we have worked on advocacy, and we've been communicating with the White House, with the Surgeon General, Jerome Adams. Also, we have been working, as Dr. Mariam said, in partnership with other organizations like Imana, AMHP, and others on a national level. But also we've been partnering with our local partners on a local level. Yesterday, I met with a Republican representative, and just earlier, 1 or 2 weeks ago, with a Democratic representative. The work that we are doing is done in a bipartisan level. We are working with senatorial offices. We are working with congressional offices. We are talking to Congress people directly about the concerns that we have, not just from the Muslim community, but generally the concerns we have about COVID-19 and how we can do better. We've also worked with FEMA, and one of the projects that we did was, as I mentioned earlier, he's also my colleague in Islamic Relief. Through our Dallas office, we facilitated 35,000 gallons of water to go to the Navajo Nation with FEMA. We also coordinated and provided logistical support with Amana, with the US Virgin Islands. That project was done with FEMA. So it's very important for us as Muslims to help our neighbors, not just on health issues, on hunger issues, on poverty issues. This is a time when all of the work we've done in the past kicks in now, and we have to increase the number of people that we help, and we have to provide better quality work. The responsibility is more on us now than ever before. We need to help them because we're Muslim, not because they're Muslim. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anwar, for sharing your thoughts and reflections and sharing with us the important work that Islamic Relief USA is doing. Before I go to the next speaker, I want to take this opportunity to thank the Muslim Delegate Assembly for facilitating and for accommodating this panel. And I want to, in particular, thank my good friend, AJ Durrani, for his leadership and for his service to our community. Having said that, I want to mention this, that since the beginning of this year, we have witnessed more than 5.5 million confirmed cases of COVID. More than 170,000 American lives have been lost because of this COVID. And unfortunately, this year, we also witnessed an increased amount of social and racial injustice. One of the iconic leaders of our nation, Dr. King, once said, "We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." So now I would like to bring in a very prominent leader who has been doing an amazing work, Dr. Kamila Rashad. She's the founder and president of Muslim Wellness Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting healing and emotional well-being in the American Muslim community through dialogue, education, and training. She is also the founding co-director of the National Black Muslim COVID Coalition, an initiative launched in collaborative with Muslim Anti-Racism Collaborative to address need for effective planning, preparedness, and organizing during the COVID-19 pandemic. Through her work, Dr. Rashad has established the annual Black Muslim Psychology Conference and Deeply Rooted Emerging Leaders Fellowship for Black Muslim young adults. Dr. Rashad also serves as the Fellow for Spirituality, Wellness, and Social Justice at the University of Pennsylvania. She is the advisor to Penn Sapelo, the first Black Muslim student organization at the University of at UPenn, and served 3 years as the Muslim chaplain at UPenn. Dr. Rashad's clinical and research areas of interest includes mental health stigma in faith and minority communities, first generation college student, and emerging adults of color. Dr. Rashad graduated from the University of Pennsylvania with a BA in psychology, M.Ed in psychological services. She obtained further graduate education, earning a second master's in restorative practices and youth counseling from the International Institute for Restorative Practices. She completed her doctorate in clinical psychology at Chestnut Hill College in Philadelphia. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Kamila Rashad.
Assalamu alaikum. Greetings of peace, dear members of the Democratic National Convention, Muslim delegates, and all those tuning in around the country and the world. It is an honor to join you all here today. Nearly 1 in 5 American Muslims identifies as Black or African American, and we are challenged by unique threats posed not only by COVID-19, but police brutality, racial violence, economic insecurity, anti-Muslim bigotry, and the monitoring and surveillance of our communities. And in this moment in particular, voter suppression and political disenfranchisement. Data related to racial disparities in numbers of reported positive COVID-19 cases and fatalities paint a grim picture. In May, Muslim Wellness Foundation, in collaboration with the Black Muslim COVID Coalition partners, conducted a national survey of the impact of COVID on Black folks in the United States. This is the only survey which intentionally sought to capture the religious and ethnic diversity of our communities. What we found was both inspiring and incredibly sobering. Of our Black Muslim respondents, 47% reported having a pre-existing health condition. 49% reported that they had friends or family members who had recovered from COVID, but 28% reported that they had a friend or family member who had died of the disease. 42% were unemployed, and of those who were employed, 10% had been laid off from their job. But these numbers don't convey the depth and the texture of the impact on our everyday lives. So I want to share with you the words of our Black Muslim respondents, their reflections. A 21-year-old African-American male said, "I have been extremely demoralized lately to have witnessed a significant uptick in police brutality, white supremacy, and utter disregard of Black and brown people and communities amidst the pandemic. Feeling like whatever we do, there is permanent target on our backs for merely existing." A 72-year-old African-American Muslim woman said, "I'm tired of being labeled most likely to die first because I'm poor, Black, and elderly." A 38-year-old Sudanese woman said, "I have surges of anxiety. The disparities Black folks are experiencing in infection, testing, and treatment have reinforced the general anti-Blackness in this country." Another woman said, My husband is a first responder, so I'm always concerned about his well-being, praying that he stays safe and that he doesn't accidentally bring home anything to us. I have a 5-year-old son, and I'm dealing with his emotional changes because he misses his school, friends, and going to the park. He had a breakdown for a week, and I felt helpless. Finally, a 29-year-old East African woman said, "Each day is a universe. There is no normal day, no normal routine. I am doing my best to hold on to the light of faith. I have had a lot of dark days, and I've had difficulty coping. I can't sleep at night. My mind is always racing, thinking about how brief this life is. Black death is prevalent still. Black abuses have escalated, and to be forced to stay home and not be able to do anything to fight back has made coping with this pandemic a heart-wrenching one. I am more angry than ever. I find myself moving towards feelings of apathy, and this is the most terrifying consequence of this pandemic. To be indifferent about what is happening all over the globe in an effort to protect my sanity would be to sacrifice the softness of my heart. But every day it feels like an inch closer to despair. To be Black in this time is to be beaten to a pulp with just enough life to keep our blood flowing. I don't know how much I can take. All this to say, overall, I'm coping terribly. Historically, Black Muslim communities have implemented and sustained vibrant self-help programs serving poor, vulnerable, and criminalized communities through direct services such as food pantries, reentry programs, and economic empowerment. However, the current pandemic has exacted an extraordinary strain on these already overburdened yet vital programs. The fact of the matter is the current administration's response to all of the issues mentioned above has been immoral, has been woefully inadequate, and devastatingly lethal. We must act decisively in this upcoming election so that 5-year-old Black Muslim child, he can go play in the park. He can hug his first responder father without fear at the end of a long day, so that this 5-year-old child can quite literally survive and thrive into adulthood without feeling like he's targeted and brutalized for simply being Black and Muslim. As community members, caregivers, concerned human beings, we must not waver or compromise on our obligation to protect and care for all, especially the most vulnerable. We must do what we can in this election to ensure that our communities can grow, can thrive, and can live to their fullest potential, especially our children. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Camila. I will quickly go to the next speaker, Dr. Hassan Shanawani, who is the current president of American Muslim Health Professionals. His current position is at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan Senior Health Medicare Advantage as their medical director for clinical performance improvement. Dr. Shanawani completed his residency and chief residency at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio, and his fellowship is in pulmonary and critical care medicine, as well as health ethics and policy at Duke University in Durham, North Carolina. Dr. Shanawani has a long history in medical and religious ethics. He has published numerous articles on end-of-life care, Islamic bioethics, and conscious objection to medical procedures. Without any further ado, please welcome Dr. Hassan Shanawani.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Outstanding. You've heard a lot of great things from our partners. Back in March, I want to tell you a story. We were beginning to see the data that was telling us that something bad was coming. We saw stormy clouds on the horizon, and the question came to us, American Muslim Health Professionals, the Islamic Medical Association of North America, and a number of other faith organizations and public health organizations, should we start closing down congregational prayers, churches, synagogues, temples, and of course mosques? And it was, we had to come together, and it was really hard and dark times when we had to come together and really make the terrible consequential decision that felt awful, to separate us from our communities of faith, from our schools, those things that are what bond all of us together in society in America. And so we came together, over 40 organizations, 100 individuals from different organizations, and we partnered across the United States, and we made some really tough decisions. And ultimately, we had to make the decision because we felt like the president said 50, 60 years ago, the buck has to stop with us. We have to take responsibility and make the tough decisions to protect our families, our neighbors, the people that we love. I'm responsible for my neighbors, regardless of their faith. I'm responsible for my colleagues here in the hospital where I work and where I take care of sick people. I'm also a lung doctor. I can't tell you the awful stories, not just of the patients that I've seen over the last 6 months, but colleagues of mine who have been brought to their knees because of this terrible pandemic and the awful preparation that people made across the country. We're doing better, but still there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of uncertainty, and sometimes it just feels lately in the last month or two that things are just getting worse and worse. But AMHP, the National COVID Task Force, faith communities, we're working together with our brothers and sisters in the Christian community, the Jewish community, Sikhs, Hindus, all across the country, locally, regionally, nationally. We've been coming together and we have been working to provide guidance with science that you can trust, that takes people's faith into consideration, and partners that we can work together with, because we need that smart expertise. And ultimately, at the end of the day, this COVID problem this is the biggest threat that we're facing to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We want to be able to open up churches again, and schools and universities. I have 2 children at the University of Michigan. As Azhar, my friend, said, there's been an outbreak down in North Carolina where I used to live. My wife used to be on the faculty at a university down there. I want to see football again. Right now here in Michigan, we just lost our football season because this hasn't been managed well. But there are bright spots here in the state of Michigan. We've done a great job of shutting down the COVID virus. This thing hasn't discriminated, although some of the work that people do, as Dr. Rashad really nicely said, and we're working to fight against racism and discrimination as well. Because even though the virus doesn't discriminate, sometimes some of the work that people in America do does. We're proud to be part of this task force. We're proud to work with our partners across the country. We're ready to make those tough decisions. We're ready to provide that expertise. And most important, we're really optimistic about the upcoming year and the opportunity to sit at the table and partner with really good people, smart people in the Christian community, the Jewish community, our politicians, our elected officials, our government employees, to provide sound public health, scientific knowledge so that we can safely reopen schools, reopen up our religious schools, reopen our mosques, our synagogues, our churches, get back to having fun outside and just having a good time with our family. And so what I would love to say to the American people, those of you that are listening today, please get involved. Listen to your public health experts. Listen carefully to the smart people that God gave us this knowledge and gave us this guidance, and He gives it to us through these outstanding people that we work with. I've known Dr. Fauci since I went to medical school in the 1990s. And we have incredible people around the country that are providing sound advice, and organizations like us that take faith into consideration, but we also take in important knowledge so that people can safely worship. Better days are coming, but only through hard work, tough decisions, and most importantly, love, compassion, and partnership with your neighbors. We're responsible for each other. I am my brother's keeper. And I just wanted to say, God bless you. God bless America. And we'll see you next year when better days are coming.
Thank you so much, Hassan. I truly appreciate all the panelists. I know we are out of time, but quickly want to thank all the panelists and especially my good friend AJ Durrani for his leadership. With that being said, back to you for the next session.
Thank you very much, Azhar. The next session will be led by Mansoor Khader. Let me just introduce Mansoor to you. Mansoor is a senior advisor at the Democratic National Committee, DNC. He leads the party's engagement across 50 states and territories to ensure that Democrats and progressive allies have the support they need to succeed. Additionally, Mansoor helps support the DNC's constituency engagement work across several communities, including labor, youth outreach, Latino, interfaith, and of course the Muslim community. Before joining the DNC, Mansoor was part of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee's national organizing team and has spent more than a decade organizing on behalf of Democrats up and down the ballot. Mansoor, please take away.
Thanks, AJ. Thank you for that introduction. Our next segment, we're going to hear from elected Muslim officials and Muslims involved in campaigns at a senior level. To get straight to the point, let me introduce our first speaker, who I consider a good friend, Pennsylvania State Senator and Vice Chair of the Democratic Party in Pennsylvania, the Honorable Sharif Street.
Thank you, Mansoor, and thank you, everyone, for inviting me to participate in this program. It is so important that Muslims are engaged in this election and in more broadly in the political process up and down the ticket, and are engaged in the setting up of government once Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are elected. It's critically important for so many reasons. If under these circumstances Muslims cannot get engaged, then I'm not sure what circumstances we can get engaged. We have the current president has talked about banning people from Muslim countries and from entering this country, and send a message to Muslims that he doesn't believe that we're welcome in this country. That in and of itself, in a country that was founded to create religious, on the basis of creating religious liberty, is anathema to what it means to be an American. And it's inconsistent with the very mission. There's a reason that the very first amendment that was adopted was the freedom of religion and association. But moreover, Muslims are engaged in so many different facets of American life that everyone else is. You have Muslim doctors who can recognize that the failures of this president to recognize and acknowledge science, or to deal with the pandemic that is disproportionately affecting Black and brown communities, of which many are Muslims. You have the insults that the president leveled to African and Caribbean countries, many of whom include a large number of Muslims. You have his failure to drive dollars out to small businesses. And we know so many people in our community, whether they be African American Muslims or immigrant Muslims, tend to be engaged in small businesses. And as a consequence, his failure to invest resources to assist small businesses hit our communities harder. But most importantly, this president has failed to lead on civil rights issues, particularly as an African American Muslim. We know that he has failed after the George Floyd murder, which affected many communities. This president did not step forward. Contrast that with Joe Biden, that has a history of inclusion, who has made commitments to not only work with the Muslim communities, but to work with all communities, and recognizes the diversity. The diversity of America is a strength. Joe Biden, who understands that we have to drive money out to small businesses, and that the only way we can fix our economy is through dealing with COVID-19 through a scientific-based approach. There are so many reasons that that all Americans, and that applies to Muslim Americans, need to get engaged in this process. But there's an old saying: if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So even after we elect Joe Biden president and Kamala Harris vice president of the United States, we then need to get engaged even further in helping them set up this government. And during this electoral process, we need to encourage Muslims to be engaged in each and every facet of the government, including being engaged in the process of of electing people to the state Senate and state House members like me.
Mansoor, go ahead.
Yes, so our next speaker is going to be Georgia State Senator, the Honorable Sheikh Rahman.
Hello. Hi. Assalamu alaikum, fellow Democrats. My name is Sheikh Rahman. I'm the first Asian American state senator and the first Muslim state legislator from Georgia. I represent one of the most diverse state senate districts in the country. People like me who come from 100 different countries, speak more than 100 different languages, come from all 50 states and territories, people of all different colors and background, call Georgia their home. I'm honored to represent them. I represent the future of America. Today, I'm honored and excited to be with you all who are joining us in this historic virtual convention. We may not physically be in Milwaukee today, but we are together in spirit. I hope you are as excited as I am for this election with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket. I can't rest until I see Donald Trump is escorted out of the White House in January, because even he loses this election, he will not waste a single minute of his time to hurt immigrant, minorities, Muslims, and people of color at any opportunity he gets. He showed us his true color during this pandemic. We would not have almost a couple of 100,000 people dead under his watch. He was a danger to this country before he was elected. He's a danger to this country now, and he will be a danger to this country after he loses this election. We cannot just win. We have to win big by a landslide. We cannot only win the White House, we have to win the US Senate back too. Then, only then, we'll have a mandate to fix healthcare. We can finally restore the John Lewis Voting Rights Act into law. We can fix our immigration law. We can stop the Muslim ban. We can get justice for our black and brown brothers and sisters who are being killed by some racist police in this country every day. So my friend, we need to win big. We need to win from courthouse to state house to White House. My friend, let's promise one thing today in this convention. Let's not rest until we have voted out every racist elected official in this country. My friend, I'm optimistic. I know we can get it done. I know we can get it done with all of us. Let's win for the better future. Let's win for the next generation of American. Let's win for the people who look like us. And let's win for the people who represent America. Let's win for the sake of our democracy. Let's win to restore the soul of America. Let's win with Joe Biden. Let's win with Kamala Harris. Enjoy your convention. God bless you, and God bless America.
Thank you, Sheikh. Thank you for those words, and thank you, Senator, for your remarks as well. Our next speaker is the Senior Advisor on Muslim Outreach for the Joe Biden team, Farouk Mitta.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Mansoor, great to be here with you. AJ, Senator Street, Quorum, everybody. Great lineup. I joined the Biden campaign back in March, and when I joined, I was actually, I wasn't sure exactly what I was getting into, although I had been supportive of the vice president since he announced, even before he announced, and I was helping informally on the campaign. But since I've joined, we've done probably one of the most robust Muslim engagement efforts that I've ever seen in a general election. And I think that's because this campaign really values Muslim American voters and understands that our votes, especially in key battleground states like Florida, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and others, can actually make the difference and help Joe Biden get elected to be our next president of the United States. I was looking back at my calendar a couple days ago and I saw that I've probably organized 80 or more events just in the last 4 months. And I know many of you have been at them. Some of the folks that are speaking here have joined me on them, like Senator Street. And we've had a lot of great conversations. I want everybody to know that when we do these events, whether it's with me or surrogates or other policy folks on the campaign, we are taking your feedback. We are making sure that they're incorporated into our strategy and into our documents. It's what led to the Muslim agenda on our website at joebiden.com/Muslim America. So your voices matter in this campaign. Joe Biden himself said at the Million Muslim Vote Summit that he wants to earn Muslim votes, and we are doing everything we can to do that. We've been growing our team. Over the last several weeks, we've hired Muslims across battleground states. Our state coalitions director in Pennsylvania is an African-American Muslim sister. In Michigan, we've got a deputy coalitions director who's from the Muslim community. We've hired a deputy coalitions director in Texas from the Muslim community. So we're ramping up and we're engaging our communities, all of them, all of our diverse communities as best as we can. We need you to get involved. When you get a chance, text MFB, the 3 letters, Muslims for Biden, MFB, to 30330, so you can get connected to the state campaign wherever you live. Help us digitally organize, help us phone bank, help us get people registered to vote. Look forward to continuing to work with everybody. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Farouk. Our next speaker is co-chairperson of Engage, Khurram Wahid.
Go ahead, Khurram.
Khurram, I think you're muted.
Hello, welcome everybody. I'm on the DNC platform committee this year, and I wanted to talk a little bit about why you need to vote blue all the way down the line. I know folks are very focused on the presidential, and that's great, but there's more going on in the November election than just the presidential. And the reasons to vote blue are probably not obvious to all of you. And let me go through a couple of them. The United States Supreme Court. Currently, we're probably about 5 conservatives and I would say 3 more progressive justices and 1 that kind of goes back and forth a little bit. We need to make sure that we understand that the next president of the United States is going to select at least 1, if not 2, United States Supreme Court justices. The Senate. We're right on that hovering line. We can, as Democrats, win back the Senate. We're very close. And there's some great races out there that you should get involved with that might not be in your state. And the reason that we need to win the Senate is because you can't pass a law, even if you've engaged the executive and you've engaged your members of Congress, without the Senate. And we saw that during President Obama's second half of his second term. The Senate not only passes laws, but they confirm candidates that the president wants to appoint. It's time we had a Muslim Senate confirmed candidate. And that can only happen if the senators then confirm and pass forward that candidate. An example is currently we have no federal judges that are from the Muslim community on the bench. President Obama tried, and it was blocked by the Senate. They wouldn't even bring it to a vote. It's time that we make sure that we target the Senate and win that back for the blue team. In addition, the Senate is also where we can have some of our most important hearings on foreign affairs and domestic policy. It is where we can really shine a light on the amazing work we've seen today by the Muslim doctors in our community and others who've been fighting COVID-19. It's a platform of which we have to invest more and make sure we turn it blue. Your state legislators, there are a number of races going on all over the country at your state level that you need to pay attention to. and make sure they go blue. Your state legislators are who create the districts. And we've seen all over the country, Republicans have gerrymandered these districts in such a way that it disenfranchises minorities, those who are below the poverty line, and many others. And it's doing this to make sure that Republicans stay in power, even when it is not the will of the people. We have to bring Democrat legislators back into the vein of power in order to make sure that we can fix this gerrymandering problem. Democrats are also running in all of your local elections, and many of you have had those elections already, but you have to keep an eye out and make sure that you're supporting those candidates as you move forward into future electoral process years. Now, let me talk to you a bit about accountability. So I've talked about voting blue, but it's also important to make sure that we understand that we are not a rubber stamp as the Muslim American electorate for anybody. We're here to hold folks accountable, but we put folks in office who we can work with, who we can disagree with, and work to compromise upon policy and implement solutions that are good for all Americans. We have to find those folks and work with them. That's within the Democrat Party. It doesn't mean that once we elect President Joe Biden in November, that we will stop engaging with him, that we will no longer have anything to say to him other than attending the annual Eid iftars. We absolutely have to continue to engage, hold our leaders accountable, regardless of who they are. It's important for us to recognize, though, that we can't work with the current administration, whether it's your federal Republicans in the form of President Trump or governors who are Republican governors all over this country. We've seen it. They're locking out the Muslim community. They're not engaging with us. And more importantly, they're not even allowing us to be part of the political process by demonizing our community, by talking about us in the form of nothing more than terrorists and those who are here to do harm to America. It's important for us to understand our goals are clear. Vote Democrat and vote up and down the line, but hold everyone accountable.
Thank you so much, Khurram. That's very important words, because there are Democrats, there are other folks on the ballot that really matter and have an impact on the work that's being done on the political side of the Muslim community. So thank you for that. Our next speaker is former Vice Chair of the Texas Democratic Party and co-chair of the Bernie Sanders for campaign, Farouk Shamsi.
Assalamu alaikum. It has been an honor to serve Senator Sanders on the Rules Committee, the DNC Rules Committee, the meeting that we had on July 30th. It's been a great experience working with him since 2016 as a surrogate, and then also on the Rules Committee, and then finally leading the DNC delegation, the Bernie Sanders delegation out of the state of Texas. It's really important, and I'm going to echo what Khurram said, that it's time to come together, and we must vote Donald Trump out of office. We have 1 million Muslim votes available in this country. They're available. The question is, will everyone come out and vote and get this horrendous person out of office? And it's up to us to get our families and our neighbors and our friends to come out and vote this fall. We may not get to vote by mail-in ballot. Who knows what's going to happen with that? But it's important that we all vote in a safe manner. The Rules Committee experience was really exciting. I must say that obviously the Bernie team was in the minority, but you know what? There was an air of compromise this time, to where there were certain things that we all agreed on that were able to be passed by the whole committee. And that was an impressive experience. It was just really very cordial, very nice, very respectful. I know the senator and respects Vice President Biden and vice versa. And that has helped a lot as well in their relationship. As far as Senator Sanders is concerned, I know that many of you were expecting to see him at the top of the program, but hopefully we are expecting him to be at the bottom of the program, so stick around, as they say, and hopefully you'll get to hear from him as well. Thank you very much for listening to me and for listening to this program, and we look forward to all of you voting. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much, Farouk, for those remarks. Our next speaker is Connecticut State Senator, the Honorable Saud Anwar.
Thank you so much, Mansoor, and AJ, thank you so much for having me. I am truly honored to be here. Assalamu alaikum to each and everyone who's listening, including the honorable guests and the delegates. Look, we hear this all the time that this election is the most important election of our lives. Actually, this election truly is the most important election of our lives. The outcome of this election may even determine if we will have an election in future. This is how crazy time that we are living in. We have a president who's working on an agenda which does not follow any rules, any understanding, and the party that is supposed to be a check on their own people has actually refused to be a check on the people. I think this is also important because the time has come where complacency, silence, lack of engagement is equal to homicidal neglect. I'm going to say that again. It's homicidal neglect not to participate and vote him out and have a majority of the Democrats right now. Why? As an intensive care unit doctor, I have seen far too many people die. And I've listened to far too many stories in the country with how the pandemic has been managed, how there is this anti-science mindset. It's fascinating that we are having these conversations in the year 2020, where we are actually justifying science, where we are trying to actually tell people that wearing a mask is a way to protect public health. We are telling people that COVID-19 is a real disease. And we have a situation where people refuse to recognize that reality within the Republican Party and with the president at this time, which has led to thousands of deaths that were preventable. From a Muslim perspective, I want to make sure that the community members who are listening recognize that from a faith point of view, our hijrah, the immigration, is so important that our calendar, the Islamic calendar, has hijrah as the beginning of the calendar. Where the Prophet had shown clearly when a person actually goes from one part of the world to another part of the world, they make the new place their home. And they make the new place their home, they are willing to stand, and they're supposed to stand up and protect it. They're supposed to interact with each and every one to make sure that the community is stronger. They're supposed to actually take up arms if they have to protect the new place, their immigrant home, the new adopted home. So we have to be participants in each and every aspect of our lives to make sure the lives of our fellow Americans, friends, neighbors, communities, state, across the board are better. And the faith also tells us to be the voice for the voiceless. And that is where the democratic principles of being the voice for the voiceless, standing up for the ones who are in trouble. This is part of the essence of our faith. If you look at what's happened with our African-American brothers, with our Latino brothers, with our Muslim brothers and sisters in the community, they are being left behind. We have to stand up for them, and we have to elect a team, elect the president, elect the vice president, and also the senators and the representatives who are going to represent the true values of America. And then let's reboot what we have lost in the last 4 years, and it cannot be done without each and every person participating. Again, thank you for having me. This is a very important elections. Please don't forget to get the vote out. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senator, and thank you to all our speakers today. We heard a message of accountability. We heard a message of supporting down ballot Democrats. We heard a message about unifying in our commitment to support key issues that the community cares about, and to have a commitment towards voting, a commitment to making sure that we get out the vote for Joe Biden and the rest of the Democrats up and down the ballot. And with that, I wanted to end this portion of our program.
Thank you, Mansoor. Our next program is lineup of Muslim national delegates, and Hania Jodat Barnes is going to lead off, and then she'll just announce the names of the delegates, and they will come up one by one. This is really the highlight of the program because the convention is really for the delegates. Thank you. Go ahead, Hania.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody, and thank you, Brother Durrani, for that wonderful introduction. Salam to you all. My name is Hania Jodat Barnes, and I'm the co-founder of Muslim Delegates and Allies. I am proud to be in this space with you today. I express my gratitude to my Muslim brothers and sisters who share my commitment to the 5 pillars of Islam. And as a mother raising a biracial son, I say thank you to my sisters and the co-founders of Black Lives Matter, who champion divestment from policing and prisons to investment in our communities, and the protesters who have selflessly uplifted the voices of our Black and brown sisters and brothers fallen without a voice, suffering from systemic racism, and to Senator Bernie Sanders for inspiring me and a whole generation of young people striving for social and economic justice, for healthcare as a human right, Medicare for all and a single-payer healthcare system, tuition-free college, a Green New Deal, and a foreign policy rooted in diplomacy, not war. This election year, the Joe Biden campaign is seeking the Muslim vote, and we owe it to ourselves, to our country, and our world to restore the soul of this nation and defeat Donald Trump. But let us be very clear. Our votes must not be taken for granted, rather celebrated and encouraged. Now is the time to slam the door on Trump's brand of fascism that threatens to turn the military against protesters, sabotages a free election, exasperates a pandemic, increase violent hate crimes against Muslims and our Jewish brothers and sisters, decimate the post office, extends a travel ban against majority Muslim countries. And that too is something I am so familiar with and has been impacted by directly. Stealing more land from Palestinians, stripping our country from environmental protections, and starting a hot war with Iran, China, or perhaps both. Leading up to the November elections, we need to sow the seeds of a powerful, multiracial, and ethnically diverse peace movement that challenges the foreign policy positions of this country. If we want to avoid the failed policies of the past that brought us Trump, and if we hope to prevent an even more dangerous Trump, someone equally sinister but less buffoonish, and a cabinet built on the basis of racism and hate, we must urge Joe Biden to lead with compassion and diplomacy on the world stage and lead his foreign policy team to do the same. We ask for the end of war in Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, and Yemen. We encourage the Democratic Party to lead in global cooperation in the face of an immediate security threat, climate catastrophe. While Muslim Americans are not significant numbers statistically, at 1.1% of the US population, their population centers are in many swing states, including Florida, Michigan, Virginia, Minnesota, North Carolina, Texas, and Pennsylvania. The 2000 election was decided by 537 Florida votes, and ultimately by 1 vote in the US Supreme Court in the case of Bush versus Gore. We must never let that happen again. We can make the difference in this year's election. So let's mobilize the Muslim vote. Let's encourage our Muslim community, and let's engage them in the conversation. With that said, it is my absolute honor to introduce our next speakers, delegates Quran Saints, Zulfat Saura, Maha Rizvi, Ibrahim Samira, Zarina Barber, Samina Osman, Nabila Mansour, Brother Faisal Qazi, and my co-founder of Muslim Delegates and Allies, Nadia Ahmed. Thank you, and bless you all.
Hello, and thank you everybody for inviting me to join you today. My name is Quran Sains from Virginia, National Delegate, and Bernie Sanders Delegate as well. Here today to speak about what happened on the party platform. I was one of the members on the party platform. And to be honest with you, we submitted a very strong language regarding Palestine and Israel. And to be honest, the language was watered down. There was debate. It was voted down. And we should not let this stand. We must continue to fight to make sure our message is heard, our values are heard, and our people are heard. So I encourage everybody to please continue to educate yourself on the issues, reach out to your national elected officials, your state officials, even your local officials like myself, because they're the ones who are elected to represent us at the halls of Congress, at the halls of the General Assembly in their states, and in your local town halls. So please continue to fight, educate folks on our issues, on our values, and inshallah, we will be successful. I also will say that this election, well, though it's always said that every election is our most important election of our lifetime, but this, my friends, is the most important election of our lifetime because we cannot afford another 4 years of Donald Trump as our president. We've seen the destruction that he has caused in these 4 years that he's been in office, from the Muslim ban, which was a terrible, terrible human rights issue that he caused, and it did not need to happen. And I was at Dulles Airport one of the first nights that he implemented it, and it was a horrible scene. So we must continue to fight to get Donald Trump out of office and elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as our next president and vice president. So please, people, continue to fight. Remember the date, November 3rd. Speak to your brothers, speak to your sisters, and continue the fight. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. It's an honor to be with you. I am joining you from the historic Hermitage Hotel in Nashville, where we're celebrating the hotel and Tennessee's role in women's right to vote. My name is Zulfa Swara. I'm a council member at large with Metro Nashville. I'm the first Muslim woman elected in the state of Tennessee and the first Nigerian woman elected in the US. I'm sure many of you have heard of stories out of Tennessee. It is hard to imagine that it's only 10 years ago since the Muslim community have been under serious attacks, from the anti-Sharia bill to burning down of our Columbia Mosque, vandalism at Al-Farouk, and we all know about the opposition to the Murfreesboro Mosque. So how did we do it? How did we go from all of that to now having over 37,000 people vote for me? We did it by building relationship between the Muslim community and the larger community. We did it through empowerment, through education, and we did it through engagement. After the anti-Sharia bill, we decided to be very proactive and not let others define us. With organizations like the American Muslim Advisory Council, we focus on empowering the Muslim community while engaging the larger community. We started by working on collaboration from our diverse Muslim communities. We make sure that everyone had a seat at the table, and we were very intentional to make sure that our diverse community is represented. We held quarterly leadership meetings, and we make sure that everyone participates in our project. We cannot ask others to trust us and include us when we exclude one another. Charity, they said, start from home. Then we work on educating the larger community about Muslims and Islam, while also engaging our politicians. From meeting with governors to mayors to AMAC's annual Muslim Day on the Hill. We hosted candidate forum, we had GOTV events, and my favorite, we had rides to the polls with your imam. Finally, we learned to be allies to others, especially our interfaith friends. We learned to show up for others and understand the intersectionality of our issues. It was also important for us to not only speak up about religious issues, but about all issues affecting all Tennesseans. Over the years, our community have learned to work together and build a diverse coalition. An example was how Tennesseans of all faith, race, gender, and sexual orientation responded to the recent Islamophobic ad in one of our newspapers. A few weeks ago, my colleagues and I in the council elected the first Muslim to our school board. I'm very proud of my community and our allies. I would not be here if not for them. We as a community have to continue to engage. We have to continue to build relationship. We have to get people out to vote. This election is too important, and we do it by inclusion, by making sure everybody is impacted or included. We do it through education, and we do it through engagement. One of my favorite quotes is from Shirley Chisholm, that if you're not invited to the table, you pull up a chair. We cannot wait to be asked to participate. This is our country, and we have the right to be here and to be able to participate in electing our next president. We have to help elect Democrats up and down the ballot. And I want to tell you that we can do it. If we can elect a Muslim in Tennessee, in the Bible Belt, we can do it. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Maha Rizvi, and I'm a Assalamu alaikum. My name is Maha Rizvi, and I'm a Bernie delegate from California, District 42. I am so honored to be here today to speak about my community in the Inland Empire. Even though we go into the voting booth by yourself, voting is something we do for our community. We are socialized into it. It's exercised in our community, and that's what we did to create in the Inland Empire. As a community, we built the infrastructure by organizing voter registration drives, ballot parties, voter education events, candidate forums, and so much more. We did not build just amongst the youth, but we also talked to our community leaders and our community elders, who are now guiding their family to build the future generations of voter. Our collective effort has led to a 65% increase in Muslim voter registration in our area. Not only have we become regular voters, we're getting involved in spaces that we have never really been, such as party politics, running for a local office, to grassroots organizing in our issues that are important to us. Even me, I actually ran myself and was elected to be the first Muslim regional director for the California Democratic Party. Even though we've come so far, there's a lot of work ahead of us. And now I'd like to turn it over to my brother, Faraz Rizvi.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. And as Maha was saying, as the Muslim communities have built capacity and organized, there have been many challenges along the way. One of the harsh wake-up calls was learning the depth, nuance, and width of Islamophobia, and learning that even in liberal spaces that were not necessarily racistly Islamophobic, but were paternalistically Islamophobic, meaning that they stood up for us and our rights, but did not feel comfortable with our authentic political expression. And this is something that can be seen in the treatment of Sisters Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, and even in some of the troubling language regarding Muslims in the previous platforms. And learning that in many ways, no political speech was as complicated as that of our Muslim community.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It is my pleasure to be part of this amazing group. I am a delegate, Biden delegate from Minnesota. And as you're aware, Minnesota has a history of having many firsts, starting with Keith Ellison as the congressman and the first Muslim congressman, and followed by our sister Ilhan Omar. And my journey with the political engagement and civic engagement started on April 20th, 1995. Most people have forgotten what the day before of the day was. That was the day when US experienced the most horrific domestic terror incident. That has to do with Oklahoma City bombing. The day of the city bombing, all the pundits on the news, as well as the politicians, came on and literally made a statement that it must have been someone with our faith. As a result, my son was bullied in school, and that was the time when I made up my mind that I wasn't going to sit on the sidelines and just watch life go by and our culture of this great democratic country change, and the hateful mongering would begin. I was fortunate enough to run into our state Senator Paul Wellstone, who inspired me, who continues to inspire me till today. So over the years, we've been involved at the grassroots, trying to support many candidates, doing fundraisers. But what we realized was that really wasn't an area that we were having a great impact. So in 2018, I ran as the lieutenant governor candidate with the gubernatorial candidate, Rebecca Otto. I'm the first Muslim woman to have run for a statewide office in the nation. Along with that, it's also important to say that 2016 rhetoric that started with Trump, we formed at a national level a Muslim Caucus of America, and that was again to build the momentum that was needed across the nation to take the destiny in our own hands. So my involvement actually had a twofold goal to it. One, not with the Muslim Caucus, but all along. One was to educate the politicians about who we are as a community and what our issues and concerns were, and another to get our community to get more involved in the civic engagement. Parallel to that, I've also been a human rights advocate and served on the board of Advocates for Human Rights. We worked on several issues, both domestically and on an international level. I have recently been appointed as the Assistant Commissioner for the state of Minnesota for Minnesota's IT services. So my journey was parallel to the volunteer work that I have been doing and my educational journey as well. So I'm happy to be here to see the level of engagement and the impact we as the Muslim community can make going forward and bringing Joe Biden and Kamala Harris into the White House.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Samina Usman, and I'm a DNC delegate from the great state of California, District 17. And I'm also an Assembly District 25 delegate as well. For the past 4 years, communities of conscience have been fighting against this administration's attack on minorities and marginalized communities. Whether it be through the Muslim and African bans, or attacks on refugees or asylees, by putting kids in cages and the surveillance of our communities. And as disturbed as we are by these policies, we must remember that some of these actions did not begin with the Trump administration. The Countering Violent Extremism, or CVE, and its various iterations, whether it be PVE or TVTP, continue to target, profile, and surveil communities and cause a chilling effect on one's First Amendment rights. So while I'm a Democrat and a patriot through and through, I believe that true patriotism begins with calling out injustices, regardless of who perpetuates them. As a Bernie delegate, I will work to get Joe Biden elected because this country, this world cannot handle another 4 years of Trump. Our environment can't take it. Our economy can't take it. I can't take it. We must build a stronger country and a stronger generation for tomorrow. So please join me in canvassing, calling your friends and family, fundraising, or any of the many activities to vote, to mobilize the vote. And again, this is not just the vote for president, but the vote for school board, for judges, for state positions, for Congress. And inshallah, once we elect Joe Biden and a new Democratic Congress, the work begins to push for progressive and inclusive policies and to rebuild our country. Please join me, please take action, make sure to vote, make sure to get your community to vote, and inshallah, the change begins with us. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Nabila Mansour, and I'm a Bernie delegate from Sugar Land, Texas. I'm a precinct chair. I'm the president of Asian American Democrats of Texas, Houston. And you could say elections are on my mind all the time because in my day job, I'm the executive director of Engage Texas, an organization committed to ensuring Muslim Americans are part of the process. Those of us that live in Texas know that we are in a special time. We believe our state to be a swing state and that this election could be the end of Republican dominance in the area of presidential elections for some time to come. That's why we are working so hard to turn Texas blue. The Muslim American community in Texas plays a huge role in hubs like Houston, Dallas, and Austin, and suburbs like mine, Sugar Land. We are going to be pivotal in swinging the state left, but we know it doesn't happen by itself. As such, we work with a variety of groups to get the Muslim vote out. How do we do that? We do it by building partnerships and doing collaborative work. Right now, there is a huge momentum. We are working very diligently with our Asian American, Latinx, and African American partners and allies, and we are making a dent. Our county has an Indo-American county judge. We have rising stars like House Representative Jean Wu, who's a stalwart supporter of our work. And we have the youngest county judge in Harris County, my friend, 28-year-old Lina Hidalgo. We are working to elect good people to high places. But we have our challenges. The pandemic is hitting us hard, and the 2020 census cannot be forgotten. The Census 2020 is being cut short by this administration. An original October deadline has now been moved to the end of September, and this administration is weaponizing the census against us so that vulnerable communities don't count. As the lead facilitator of Harris County and City of Houston's Complete Count Committee, I know we won't let that happen. We have volunteers working around the clock to make sure every refugee, immigrant, and non-citizen is counted. And just like suppressing the vote, we will not let them suppress the count. I am so proud to join my fellow Muslim Americans from across the country as we work together to bring better leadership to our great nation. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. It's good to be with everybody. My name is Faisal Kazi. I'm in Southern California. I'm a delegate from Congressional District 39 in Southern California. I'm a neurologist. I'm a husband. I'm a father of 4. 2 of them are former foster youth. One of them is a current foster youth in our care. And my desire to be here is to make a difference. And this is my first experience at this unique, rather unique conference. And this is going to be a memorable event. But recently, I'm also driven and moved to run for city council within my city. And one of the interesting experiences I had, I was always in awe of how many brave Muslims stepped up and since post 9/11 ran for offices and took on the heat and the hate that came with it. I was chatting and announcing my candidacy when a woman checked my bio on the website and noted that I had opened a free clinic in Detroit. And then she commented on the social media saying, well, we don't want Fullerton, the city of ours, to be turned into Detroit. I said, I agree. The next comment she makes, she said, no Muslim rule in Fullerton. And that took me, I was taken aback by that. But then I realized, this kind of genre, many of the people have actually faced for many candidates because that's what has become a normal thing for Muslim candidates to face. But also not only this hate, but issues of fracking, issues of climate change, issues of economic development. All these things have been sort of a conversation going on in my communities going from local to global. We're noticing that these are the same exact issues that affect my community. So even though it's a small race, but it's giving me an opportunity to participate at a global level, at a national level. So I'm inspired by all of you. I'm inspired by folks participating in this convention. I'm excited as bases get excited. Look forward to working with you. And Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for having me.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Nadia Ahmed, and I am a DNC national delegate from Orlando, Florida. And I've made it my business to make sure that Donald Trump ends his authoritarian rule at the White House. The week he was elected, I was numb, and every day after has been one of heartache and one panic attack after another. As a law professor, I was devastated by how Donald Trump is ruining our democracy and the rule of law. As a mother of 3 young children, I can't stand to hear their cries of the children who are separated from their parents at the border and put in cages. We have to take action to restore dignity back to our nation's capital. As the wife of an immigrant, I can't bear the pain of families ripped apart by the Muslim ban. No other country than America would I have the freedom to exist, to study, to teach, to drive change in my community. My father, an immigrant from Pakistan, was born a colonial subject of the British Raj and came to New York and worked the night shift as a security guard at Pan Am hangar and JFK International Airport. He worked his way through graduate school and moved to Orlando. Through his hard work and sacrifices, he now designs highways and airports at airports all across the country as an engineer. He built America. My mother came to this country alone to this continent alone with a medical degree from India. And she worked counting coupons in Montreal, Canada, unable to get another job because she didn't speak French. She came to America for greater opportunities. She now stands at the front lines of the pandemic, treating patients as a pediatrician. My parents met and married in Orlando, Florida. They came from two nations always on the brink of nuclear war. But here in America, they built family, love, and community. And in this election, we have to mobilize our communities like we have never done before. We formed Muslim Delegates and Allies Coalition to take ownership of our democracy, to take a stand, to bring it home for a new page of US Muslim relations. We want an end to targeted FBI surveillance, racial profiling, scapegoating, no-fly list, drone strikes, bombs, regime change, and military aid to countries in turmoil. We want money for jobs, education, and healthcare, and not war, prisons, and cages. Our choice in November is clear. We are ready to swing Florida blue and work night and day to make sure that Joe Biden is elected and inaugurated as the 46th President of the United States of America. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Wa'il Zayat, CEO of Engage and Engage Action, a civic and political organization for Mexican Americans dedicated to increasing voter turnout, issue advocacy, and candidate support. Donald Trump sought to ban Muslims in his first week in office. Since then, his administration has wreaked havoc on our lives and the lives of millions of Americans. What role can and should the Muslim American community play during these elections? What are the issues that drive Muslim voters? What are effective voter mobilization strategies? With me is an outstanding panel to discuss all of this. Ndidi Okakbu is an Illinois affiliate with the American Coalition for Good Government and supports the senior development team at Inner City Muslim Action Network. She also served as the past convener and board chair of the Chicagoland Shura Council. Linda Sarsour is an American political activist and founder of Empower Change, a digital advocacy organization for Muslim Americans. She was co-chair of the 2017 Women's March, the 2017 Day Without a Woman, and the 2019 Women's March. Dilara Sayed is an educator, activist, and entrepreneur. She serves as the president of the Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition. Coalition partners with influencers and organizations towards civic justice for underrepresented communities. Petra Al-Sufi is the Outreach and Partnerships Manager at the Institute for Social Policy and Understanding, ISPU, a research organization that provides objective research and education about American Muslims. Salam Al-Marayati is nationally recognized civic leader for his commitment to improving the public understanding of Islam and policies impacting American Muslims. Salam is the president and co-founder of the Muslim Public Affairs Council. Robert McCaw is Government Affairs Department Director at the Council on American Islamic Relations, the nation's largest Muslim civil rights and advocacy organization. I would like to begin with the questions, given the time constraints, to our esteemed participants. And the first, I would like to ask you, Petra, based on ISPU's data research, which you guys are well known for, what are the top issues for Muslim voters this year? And what has been really the history of Muslim American voting up until this point?
Thank you, Wa'il. Thank you for having me today here. According to American Muslim poll, Muslims and Jews are the most likely faith communities to have voted for a Democrat in 2018 midterm elections. And while it is still lower than the general public, American Muslim voter registration and voter turnout has increased in the last few years. In 2019, 73 of eligible Muslim voters were registered to vote versus only 60% in 2016. In 2016 presidential election, 81% of Muslim registered voters intended to vote, and 61% actually ended up voting. A similar trend was noted in 2018 midterm elections, where 83% said they will vote and 59% actually voted. Voter engagement, work by activists and Muslim organizations in making voting more accessible to the general public have all contributed to this positive increase in American Muslim civic engagement by addressing issues that might have prevented people from participating in the first place. However, there is still one segment of the eligible Muslim voters, around 15%, that will need a different strategy. That segment has been very consistent in their lack of voting engagement because they don't see their issues addressed or a good candidate to choose. And they feel their vote does not matter. Making voting accessible is not going to change their mind. The only way to convince them is start addressing their issues and concerns and demonstrate to them that their vote does matter. You asked about issues that American Muslims care about. On one hand, American Muslims are no different than the general public when it comes to issues that they care about and they make their voting decisions based on. Just like the general public, jobs and the economy are the number one issue that American Muslims care about. Faith does not matter when it comes to feeding your family and wanting to have a secure job. But unlike the general public, American Muslims face a lot of issues based on their faith background. Like the number one issue they care about is their civil liberties, racism, discrimination, and bigotry, which as the most diverse faith community in the nation, it speaks volume to the many issues they face in this country. From institutionalized racism to an increase in Islamophobia and treating the Muslim community through the security lens, and of course, discrimination. ISPU's research show an increased trend of Islamophobia over the years. And a third area of concern that American Muslims care about and vote based on is that of healthcare, education, and poverty, especially that a third of the American Muslim community lives at or below the poverty line. Finally, our research at ISPU shows that engagement at the local level in focusing on the youth and the disenfranchised will be key issues this election and key ways to get more American Muslims to vote and to participate in civic engagement. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Petra, for that. I would like to turn it to Robert McCaw at CARE to follow up on that a little bit, given your guys' extensive work in this space in terms of voter mobilization, voter registration that goes back many years. How do you compare what you're seeing today on the ground with perhaps the last cycle or the last few cycles, whether presidential or midterm elections, in fact?
Thank you for that question. And I would just note, CARE is a 501c3. We're a nonpartisan organization, and it's our goal to empower every Muslim voter. Muslims have been on this continent the moment African slaves were brought to the Americas, including the colonies. We've fought in every major conflict, including the Revolutionary War to present day. And in addition to making innumerable contributions, we've always been voters. We are one of the most racially diverse religious groups in the United States. And while there's always been interactions between our different communities, in the past, each segment of that community over the past 100 years built their own local national voter networks, political support, and power. The real change in our ability to nationally organize and coordinate as a community, united by our religious and civil society institutions, really started in the late 90s with the American Muslim Task Force, who then endorsed, surprisingly as it might seem in hindsight, George W. Bush. Since then, we've watched national Muslim voter registration get out the vote campaign spread in our community. And in the 2010s, under the banner of the U.S. Council of Muslim Organizations project to register a million Muslim voters, CARE's own Muslim Votes program, empowers My Muslim Vote, Engage's latest Million Muslim Voters project, which capitalizes on all those voters that have been registered. We're building a more organized community that is interacting and working together. And that doesn't even get into local or state politics. So in short, the difference that we're seeing today is that we're continuously working together at a national, local, and regional level, not segmented, We might be the most religiously diverse community, but that's our strength as we're understanding the issues of multiple communities, because we have brothers and sisters of other ethnicities that aren't Muslims, but we understand their struggle and we incorporate that struggle into our struggle through allyship, and that just strengthens the Muslim community. So right now, with over a million registered voters, we're enjoying the fruits of our past labors. We're planting the seeds for success for tomorrow, and we're building a Muslim bloc, and we're being recognized for it through panels just like this. So that's the difference. Before we were segmented, and now we are much more unified, and we have a broader and more common agenda that is intersectional, and that adds to the power of the Muslim vote.
Thank you so much, Robert. Could not agree more. I wanted to turn to Dr. Dilara Saeed, who is a wonderful partner on the Million Muslim Votes campaign. Dilara, can you tell us a little bit about more about what we're referring to as MMV now, and really what you have found to be successful strategies to increasing the voter turnout of Muslim Americans?
Absolutely. Thank you, Wael, the Engaged team, and all of the other panelists for joining us all here today. And thank you to our viewers across the nation. I'm actually going to start with 3 asks. Let's do it right, and let's ask first, right? Number 1, if you're an immigrant, if you are undocumented, if you identify as a refugee, thank you for watching. Call your friends who are citizens and tell them to vote now. Number 2, if you recently became a citizen, or if you haven't voted before for any reason, vote now. And number 3, if you voted before, vote now and sign up to be an election judge so polling places are staffed and they stay open so everyone can vote now. So let's be clear. Wael asked, why is MMV important, and why are we here today? This election will define America, and it will define all of us as Americans across the world. We're either going to be partners or we're going to be parasites. We're either going to be honorable in this world, or we are going to be the hoarders of this world. Our vote will be our voice, and our voice is needed now more than ever. So what does the Million Muslim Votes allow us to do? It actually allows us loud and clear to make sure our voices are heard. It allows us to tell over 1 million Muslim stories. We get to tell the story of Safia, who is voting because she's a young voter raised with the American Muslim values, the Muslim values of service and compassion. Safia hears too much hate and division from elected officials. It's on the news. She gets it 24/7 as a millennial. She's voting in better people. We get to tell the story of one of the Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition leaders. Yusuf just became a father for the first time. Voting means helping his newborn son grow into a man proud to be part Chilean, part Palestinian, and all American Muslim. And voting gets a chance for me to tell my story. I'm a kid from Chicago who went to Head Start preschool for low-income children. I'm a second-generation union member, a teacher. I went on to earn a doctorate in education policy and leadership, and at every step of the way, my immigrant mother told me, service is worship. Khidmat is ibadah. So these are the stories we can tell through Million Muslim Votes. If you go on any of the partner websites and web pages, you're also going to see the Million Muslim Votes, graphics of young people, older people, every generation, every color, every community, and why we vote. So what tactics are working to actually turn out the vote to the community, as Wael asked? Well, it's really important that we learn from the communities who came before us, and then we understand our own community. We are activists already on this call. I don't have to preach to the choir. You're here because you care. So, 1, listen and learn. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Trust those who have led this before. Our right to vote as people of color, as people who have been marginalized or been invisible, comes from the 400 years struggle of our Black and brown brothers and sisters. They were denied the vote, denied human rights for 250 years. And then when given human rights, their votes and their civil rights were suppressed for the next 150 years. My family came to the United States 50 years ago from India. And after some years as immigrants, a part of it undocumented, we eventually became citizens and had every rights. Those of us who inherited our right to vote from the civil rights movements must listen and learn. And we pay it forward. Today, those of us who are citizens of every background ensure voting polls are open and everyone gets a chance to vote. Because of our health challenges and others, when we work at these polls, it allows those who are elderly not to have to do it. When we work at these polls, it means polls stay open and the most vulnerable communities and those of color get a chance to vote. So strategy number one, listen and learn and then pay it forward by being part of those who make voting easy. Strategy number two, again, on this call and on this program are people who care. You and I can rattle off maybe all the reasons someone should vote. The data shows we're underrepresented. The statistics show that we're politically invisible. But if you're watching this, you care, you need to make it easy to make voting something everyone can do. So right now, as an American Muslim community, actually as an American community, we're dealing with illness. We're trying to keep our jobs or we're looking for jobs. We're managing parenting and working while figuring out if schools may or may not be open. We're living through deep racial tensions and then facing them in the mirror in our own communities. Next steps for us, connect every week with 10 family and friends.
Well,
I'm just going to wrap it up by saying this is our moment to tell our story.
Thank you so much.
And this is our moment. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dilara. I love hearing from you and everyone else. Lynn and Didi, I want to turn to you actually. One question that we all have is, our communities, mashallah, are so diverse, and all too often we're having to respond to attacks. But what does the American Muslim community have to contribute in all of its diversity to the challenges that are confronting our nation, whether they're economic, social, or political in nature?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you. Our community has a lot to contribute and has already contributed a lot. The African American community, amongst others, has a very long and storied history in being leaders of civic engagement within the Muslim community, Muslim American community, which is why, when you have leaders like the late Imam Warthaddin Muhammad, who encourage voting as part of our responsibility as Muslims, as fully contributing to citizens of the land in which we live, which is why we have so many elected officials, an environment that allotted for Keith Ellison and Andre Carson, as well as why we have the largest segment of veterans and those who serve in the military, and the list goes on. But we are not a monolith, and no one person speaks for just one group. Not just one person speaks for all of us. We are comprised of varied ethnic and cultural groups and variances, religiosity, and faith practices. Strategies to engage our community will employ varied organizing techniques that address our varied groups within the larger demographic, as well as coalescing the larger body, and also working together with all of the different groups that make up the Muslim American community. So when you ask what is our responsibility amongst all this turmoil, I would say that I'm reminded of the hadith that says if you see an evil, you change it with your hand. If you're not able to do so, you change it with your tongue. And if you're not able to do that, you hate it with your heart. And that's the weakest of faith. This religion, being Muslim American, does not allow us to spiritually bypass or be apathetic. And in the last election in 2016, it showed everyone, I would hope by now, that we can't stay siloed in our own communities alone, or play capture the flag and trying to promote one group above another, one ethnic group or cultural group or socioeconomic group above another. If we don't work together and make sure everyone is at the table, we're going to have 4 more years of the same. So these are the things that we need to do. It needs to be authentic. Linda and I, when we first connected like 12 years ago at Amically, we had this conversation about authentic relationships to build our communities together. And also we have to work on apathy and engaging our youth, because a lot of them feel disenfranchised, but we have to drive home the understanding that disengagement from the voting process is not just, let me try my hands at 4 years of the same because I don't see my candidate, but it's really saying that it's a death sentence, for lack of a better term, for a population, a group of our population. And we have to drive that understanding home to our youth and to our communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ndidi. That is so true, particularly, look, we're all in this boat together, and the dividing and conquer strategy simply will not work, and we refuse to let it work. There's too much at stake here and too much that we all have in common. Linda Sarsour, I want to turn to you. And Salam, I'm going to get to you at the end. Linda, we're all here pushing for Joe Biden and for folks down the ballot to get elected. We have seen what has come out of the, quite frankly, the Republican Party, unfortunately, the last few years and the last decade here. What do you assess the Democratic Party is doing right? And what is it still leaves much to be desired in terms of engagement with minority communities, including Muslim Americans?
Thank you so much, Wa'il, and salam alaikum, everyone. And I'm very honored to be on this call with all of you. We are in a high stakes election, and I understand that on a very visceral level. I've been at the forefront of many of the fights against this administration, and it has been an exhausting 4 years. 4 years has felt like 40 years for me. The Democratic Party has evolved, but has much more work to do, particularly as it engages with Muslim Americans. As Ndidi said, we are not a monolithic community, and we are also not a community that only cares about 1 or 2 or 3 issues. As you know, I have been at the forefront of the criminal justice reform movement here in the United States of America. We also care about immigration and healthcare and building of infrastructure and jobs and economy, and that we are not just a community focused on foreign policy, although, as you know, it is very important to me and to many of you that are on this call, particularly those of us who are from countries like Syria and Iraq and Palestine. The Democratic Party needs to also ensure that we also have roles to play in the larger Democratic Party at a high level, and that we are represented in the conversations that are happening, both in these conversations that we are having today, but also on the main stage, so that the American public can understand that we are parcel to the fabric of the United States of America. What's also very important is to understand that the Democratic Party must treat us like a very important voter bloc. The Muslim American community, we are in swing states. We are in Michigan. We are in Wisconsin. We are in Pennsylvania and Virginia and Florida and Texas. In order to win those states, the Muslim American community must be engaged by the Democratic Party in a way that invests in resources, that reaches these communities, and ensures that we're having the conversations that need to be had. I do understand that we are in a global pandemic, Wa'il, and I understand that the campaign wants to keep people safe, but we must engage in interactions that are not just digital. There has to be ways for us to safely speak to Muslim Americans across the country to ensure that they are engaged in this democratic process, which is why we at Empower Change, with our My Muslim Vote that we have been running since 2016, and in partnership with the Million Muslim Vote campaign that has emerged this year in this 2020 election, that we do everything that we can to ensure that our Muslim American community understands that the Democratic Party is not perfect, but it is absolutely our party in this moment. When we look at the Republican Party, that really has developed into a party that has promoted fascism and that has continued to erect in a president who has shown bigotry, not just towards Muslim Americans, but Jewish Americans, immigrant communities, anti-women, anti-LGBTQIA communities. And so I am here to say that I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking to defeat fascism. And I hope our Muslim American community understands how important this election is. And after 2021 starts, I promise you, I will be the one to help hold Joe Biden and Kamala Harris accountable to our communities.
Thank you so much, Linda. As someone who formerly worked in government on human rights issues, there's a global pandemic of fascism, and we cannot allow it to stay here and to take root. We have to be the light onto the world, and the American community has a role to play in that. Salam, I'm going to finish with you. Muslim Americans will say, you know, my vote doesn't matter. None of these candidates matter. They're all the same. How do we translate the electoral power that is emerging in the Muslim space in places like Ohio, Michigan, and Florida, and Pennsylvania that Sister Linda spoke about? How does that translate into policies and change that we all need and really deserve?
And Engage PAC for putting together this panel, and for the Million Muslim Vote campaign that we're proudly partners with. And as Linda says, we will hold our government rulers accountable. Ndidi mentioned the hadith of the Prophet. There's another hadith that says that the worst of guardians is the cruel ruler. Beware of being one of them. And I think this is really the message that we have to send out today is we want government to represent the diversity of Americans, not to divide Americans and to pit Americans against one another. And the reason why we can be critical in this, even though we are 1%, it could be 1% in Ohio, in Michigan, in Minnesota, in Pennsylvania, that will make all the difference. And so our vote will count now more than ever. I remember 32 years ago, I was in Atlanta for the Democratic National Convention as a Jackson delegate. And at that point, we didn't know really where we were going to go with this. And today, I see AJ Durrani, a super delegate. I see so many people here that are ready to translate the power of our vote into changes in policy. 100 years ago, we celebrate now, we found women's suffrage. We finally realized the right of women, of the women's vote. And today I'm proud that that American Muslims are part of that mosaic that include men and women in joining what is right and preventing what is of public harm. And so we can translate that by working right after the election. The transition team that selects the policy level appointments for our country should have the input of American Muslims, and American Muslims should be represented at the highest policy levels of our future administrations. And it takes institutions like Engage and MPAC and Empower Change and everyone else here to make that a reality. Without it, we will continue to be ignored. And so we need to show that the diversity of our great country is what makes America great. And American Muslims are part of that diversity. Lastly, it's not just about the White House, it's about the Senate. Whoever controls the Senate will influence what kind of federal judges we're going to confirm in the future. So we should vote also at the state and local levels as well as the national level in our work. So let me just end by saying that after this election is when our work will start in holding our government leaders accountable. And we can only do that institutionally and collectively like we're all speaking today, because diversity is the greatest power and the greatest gift from God.
Thank you, Salam. Thank you to all of our wonderful speakers. Thank you all for tuning in. The Muslim American community will respond to the policies and rhetoric that has emanated from the White House of Donald J. Trump. He banned us on his first day in office, and we will elect him out of office and put in place someone who will restore the honor and decency to the office in Joe Biden. So join me all and please pledge that you will vote and that you will vote blue to restore our democracy and help us get to work on the real issues that confront our nation and planet. Thank you, and assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, Panel 5, Engage and the Million Muslim Vote Initiative and the DD. Because we are running short of time, I'm going to eliminate the introduction that I was going to give for each one of you. I'm just going to call your name and tell you who you are, and then you can include more about yourself in your talk. So next is Farhana Khaira, founder president of Muslim Advocates. Farhana, go ahead.
Great. Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity to join you on this great occasion. My name is Farhana Karen. I'm the Executive Director of Muslim Advocates. And this year, I also had the honor of serving on the DNC Platform Committee appointed by the DNC Chair, Tom Perez. You know, it's been really, truly inspiring to hear about all of the tremendous hard work that folks have been doing in our community to get out the vote, to register people to vote. And some of you have even taken the big leap and actually run for office. And you're doing so enthusiastically and with tireless dedication and determination. And it's because you understand what's at stake. It's our right to live our lives free of hate and discrimination. But here's the thing that everyone needs to understand, that your hard work and our votes will only be truly effective if we hold our elected officials accountable. We need to be sure that they understand what change means for the American Muslim community, and in turn, how they can make real the promise of America. I want to share with you just a couple of examples of the work we're doing at Muslim Advocates already, getting ready for the next administration, and I want to ask you to join us. First and foremost, we know that the original sin of the Trump administration was the Muslim ban. Today, the Muslim ban continues to tear apart literally tens of thousands of families. A Biden-Harris administration must not only rip up those executive orders on their first day in office, but they must sign into law the No Ban Act, legislation that will prevent any future presidents from enacting a discriminatory ban again. And we are urging that they do so within their first 100 days in office. We also know that in order for our democracy to be truly strong and vibrant, it must represent the diversity of our country at all levels of government. But you know what? Do you know where a Muslim has never served? In our federal courts. That's right. There has never been in the history of the United States a Muslim who has served as a federal judge. We worked hard during the Obama term to advance a federal judge. President Obama nominated Abid Qureshi, but Abid never got a vote. He never got a hearing because it got held up in the Republican-controlled Senate. So we're calling on the Biden-Harris team to not only renominate Abid Qureshi, but to make a commitment that he will be in the first batch of judicial nominees. Those are just a couple of examples of the priorities we're working on. But to make this a reality, we need everyone pushing forward these priorities and others to the Biden-Harris team and with our elected officials. I'm honored to be in the struggle with you. And I want to thank everyone for all of their hard work and dedication to a vision of a country in which we are all treated fairly and equally. Thank you so much.
Okay, next is Texas Democratic Party Chair Gilberto Hinojosa, the chair of the Texas Party of my state. Go ahead, Chair.
Thank you, AJ, and thank you for having me here today. I will be brief and get down to the main issue that I see for us in this election, and that's to get Joe Biden elected President of the United States. And if you look at Texas, and I'm going to discuss this focused on Texas and what the American Muslim community brings to our chances of winning in the state. We've had 5 or 6 successive polls in the state of Texas, all of them with Joe Biden either ahead, one of them tied. Prior to that, there was about another 7 or 8 that showed Biden either ahead or within the margin of error. So Texas is right there as the biggest battleground state in the country in terms of helping elect the next president to the United States. The 38 electoral votes that we offer to the Electoral College would guarantee Joe Biden's election, no matter what happens in some of the other swing states. So it is well known that the day that Texas turns blue and the 38 electoral votes go to a Democrat, it is mathematically impossible for the president to get elected, for a Republican to get elected president of the United States. This is why it's so key and so important for the American Muslim community in the state of Texas to be engaged and to work this election and to vote in numbers that we've never seen before. Because the margin is so slim, because we are just this far away from being to a point of electing the next president with the numbers that we've got, Muslims will be a key to that victory. And when they become that, then I believe we will be able to ensure that we can fight for the agenda that's so important to American Muslims and all Americans across this country, to ensure that they get fairness and justice for all in this great state and in this great country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair Hinojosa. Next is Amar Shargil, the chair of the Progressive Caucus of the California Democratic Party. Go ahead.
Thank you for having me here today and for this wonderful program. Salam alaikum to everyone. In 2011, 2 Sikhs from my faith-based community were murdered, shot to death while walking in their neighborhood. And in the aftermath, there was an outpouring of community support, particularly from the Muslim community led by the Council on American Islamic Relations in Bassa Mocara. And we learned then, the lessons that we have learned for a lifetime, that we are stronger together. When we stand together, we are at our best. And that's why, Sikhs during those moments never say that we're not Muslim. What we say is that we stand together against bigotry and hate, shoulder to shoulder, arm in arm with the Muslim community. And as chair of the Progressive Caucus, my allies are Muslims, Hindus, Christians, the Black community, the disabled, transgender, because we work together. And working together in the California Democratic Party, we recently passed 2 resolutions. One was condemning the Indian government's illegal occupation of Kashmir and Jammu, and persecuting and oppressing the majority Muslims there. And second, the Indian government's oppression and attempt to steal citizenship from Muslims all across India. Those things happen because of our allied relationships, and that's why they passed unanimously in California, the Democratic Party. So there's so much we have to do together. We're going to defeat Trump, we're going to elect Biden, and then we're going to join together in a advocacy program to ensure that those progressive policies we need are enacted by the Biden administration. So I'll close with 2 words, which are chardikala, which means eternal joyous optimism in the Sikh faith. And that's what I wish to you now, even in these moments of difficulty and challenge. To all of you, chardikala.
Thank you, Amar. Next is Jihad Saleh. Oh, I guess you've brought up Brian McKeon. Okay. Next is Brian McKeon, foreign policy advisor and economist for the Biden campaign. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, AJ. I don't pretend to be an economist. I'm a foreign policy advisor to the Biden campaign and have worked for the vice president for over 25 years in both the Senate and the White House. And it's an honor for me to join you today. I've been listening to some of the session for the last 30 minutes, so I don't want to repeat anything that's been said. I will just say that this has been a very important community to the Biden campaign from the beginning of this campaign. When there was snow on the ground in Iowa, we were reaching out very actively to the Bosnian American community, which is quite significant in Des Moines and Waterloo, and Joe Biden did very well with that community. Throughout the primaries in the spring, we were very engaged with Muslim communities in key states like Virginia, Florida, Michigan. I myself did several events in person in Northern Virginia, including that we were welcomed, former Senator Dodd and myself were welcomed at the McLean Islamic Center in suburban Virginia. And as an Irish Catholic, I can tell you it was a very moving experience to be in a mosque for Friday prayers for the first time in my life. The Vice President addressed the Engage session just a couple of weeks ago, the Million Muslims event, and also held a fundraiser very recently with the Muslim community, which raised over $1 million. So we are taking this community very seriously and want to earn everyone's vote. I know from listening to the session, there are several Sanders delegates in this group who obviously chose somebody else first, but we very much welcome your support and assistance to elect Joe Biden. As Barack Obama would say, as citizens, you have the power. You have the power to make change. And to make change and get rid of Donald Trump, we need everybody's help. And so we're asking you to engage your friends, your communities, your families. And as Michelle Obama said last night, act as if your lives depend on it and vote, because our country does depend on it and your lives depend on it. So thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Next up is Dean Ubaidullah, a noted Muslim commentator. Please go ahead, Dean.
Sure. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you for having me here for a brief thing. Just want to say, I believe with every fiber of my being that we are going to win this election. I will add inshallah afterwards. But when I say inshallah, I don't mean inshallah no or maybe. I mean, yes, we're going to make it happen if we come out and vote. When we come out big, we win big. And that's just not a talking point. Donald Trump got about 62.5 million votes in 2016. What did Barack Obama get in 2008 when we all came out? Nearly 70 million votes. If we come out big, we win big. This is the key. And for those, and I like Bernie, I was a Bernie supporter in the primary. That's gone. I don't have the privilege to wait for perfection. Our community and so many other minority communities, this is personal. Trump has come after each one of us. He's attacked us. He's demonized. He inspired hate crimes against our community and others. And there's a quote by Martin Luther King, which I love and I want to share. Everyone knows the first line. It's the other two that I find more instructive. The first line is injustice anywhere. It's a threat to justice everywhere. We all know that. But the other lines are, we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all others indirectly. If you're a minority, you know that's true. When Trump comes after one community, he's mainstreaming and normalizing hate against all. So together, we must be united. We're going to win this election, and winning and getting Joe Biden in office is step one. From there, we're going to push for the progressive agenda that we want. And Vice President Biden, who will be then President Biden, is going to work with us. We're going to achieve greatness. We're really going to make America really special and embracing of all and tolerant of all. So again, this election day for us as Muslims, it's Yom Adin, but not in the sense of our souls, but in our nation's soul. Let's join together and win this election. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Next, we have Jihad Saleh, who's a campaign strategist for the Black Muslim community. Go ahead, Jihad.
Thank you so much, Brother AJ Durrani. Assalamu alaikum to everyone. I just want to say this is an honor.
Jihad? Okay, for some reason we had a problem with Jihad. Now here, next is Representative Anna Eskamani. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, AJ, and I'm sorry we just lost. Hope you'll be able to come back. My name is Anavi Eskamani, and I'm proud to be the first Iranian American elected to any public office in Florida and to be with you all today. In the short minutes that I have, I want to paint the picture of what is at risk this November. As Senator Bernie Sanders said last night, the price of failure is just too great to imagine. As Muslims and those who care about the issues that directly impact Muslims, we know what the price of failure could look like. 1 week after his inauguration, President Donald Trump issued the Muslim and African ban, causing chaos at airports across the world, tearing families apart, and to this day, scapegoating immigrants while ignoring meaningful public safety measures. We know the president has brought us to the brink of war with governments like Iran, impacting innocent people, including my family, putting them in harm's way. He has no regard for peace or justice. Sanctions are one of his only international policies, and he has undermined the prospects for an Israeli-Palestinian peace agreement, damaging our country's ability to help broker that peace. Those seeking refuge here in America, once met with open arms, are now often rejected. And we all know that hate crimes, especially for Muslims and other people of color, have reached a 6-year high in 2018 and have maintained that high. And of course, many of these struggles we all know are intrinsically tied to the movement for Black lives and racial equality taking place in neighborhoods across America. Now, one politician will never have the answers. So what I do know is that 4 more years of President Trump has the potential to damage this country beyond repair. And so we must return to a place of honesty where logic and reason are harnessed as tools of progress. An era where immigrants and our contributions are celebrated, not vilified, supported, not suppressed. A pandemic has laid bare the destructive nature of our politics. The world has watched as the greatest nation in the world denied science, attacked researchers, and embraced the definition of freedom at odds with our collective history. And that might be our past, but does not have to be our future. So vote like your life depends on it and vote for Democrats. Thank you, AJ.
Thank you, Anna. Well, Jihad is back, so Jihad, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Brother AJ. Welcome to everyone for joining us. It's a privilege to serve for the campaign, helping the faith-based national director and the director for African American engagement, both on Black Muslim engagement in those strategic 12 states and export states. I want to say, my sister Farhana Kher, who spoke earlier, we both had the privilege in 2009 to be at the first White House iftar hosted by President Obama and Vice President Biden. And I remember she was sitting just 2 seats next to me, and in between was Attorney General Holder. What was so important about that moment was I wanted to speak to him, but she got his attention because she went right away and spent the rest of the night talking about the key issues of the Muslim American community, particularly from a civil liberties issue perspective. Why that's important is because the Biden team is going to be the same as Obama. They listened to the Muslim American community. They wanted to hear from us about our issues. And in this day and age, now we will have a partner in the Biden-Harris administration on our key issues, the most important issues to the Muslim community, on COVID, on economic security, in the hunger that's in the Muslim community right now, racial injustice, the lack of affordable education, these kitchen table issues that the Muslim American community is bringing solutions to and needs to be heard. It is those departments, USDA, the Health and Human Services, FEMA, Social Security, Small Business Administration. These are the departments where we need to be heard and be represented in. So we know that the Biden and Harris team will hear from us. You have a choice of vision, a plan for America, how to bring people together, healing us together, and ultimately strong competence. We know what the other option is, the other team, no vision, no plan, divisiveness, tearing us apart, and to say the least, incompetence is being nice about it. So we want to bring together the Muslim American community, bring forth to vote for that leadership. So I want to see Muslim Americans from South Central Los Angeles on Slauson Avenue to Muslims in Brooklyn on Fulton Avenue, voting, joining with the labor movement that we've been part of for 100 years, with the racial and interfaith justice communities that have been part of the backbone of the Muslim American community and the Democratic Party. We are part of this coalition that will bring a Biden and Harris victory. Join with them from the Muslim community in Southside Chicago on Stony Island Avenue to the Houston Belford Street Muslim community. All across America, Muslim communities join together with our brothers and sisters in your districts. And I want to say too, definitely for our great organizations like Engage, who are engaging and mobilizing the Arab and South Asian Muslim communities, join with the larger Muslim community to be that driving force, that force of social justice, of the compassion and humanity that our Muslim community is embedded and part of in communities nationwide. I trust you. I know you will do the right thing on November 3rd. Join with us and bring it forth and making Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, our next president and vice president, the leadership we need to build back better.
Thank you, Jihad. A programming note before we conclude. We have received the video from Bernie Sanders. Unfortunately, because of some technical issues and problems, we cannot play it live, but that video is available on video on demand from the Democratic National Committee and this convention. So apologize that video is not available to play live, but you'll have it to watch if you want to. I want to thank all of the participants. It's hard to believe in this 2.5 hours, we have had 40 people, over 40 people come through. Not a single person who was on our list to appear live, somehow they got dropped off. Everybody was there. And I wish Mansoor was here also with me, because without him, this program would not have been possible. So Mansoor Kadir from the DNC made it possible that this program could be done under the purview of the Democratic National Committee. This was the first time an actual Muslim program was on the DNC schedule. And hopefully this is going to be just the first of several Muslim programs that will be on future conventions. Thank you all very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you, AJ.